And let's see, we're joined also by several members of the planning board. And our city solicitor, associate city solicitor, Andrew Lee, Mr. Dorringer's here. And let's see, who else?
That's it.
I think that's it.
Yeah,
I've seen that.
we're joined by Drew Wilson, our new city clerk and clerk of the council. We welcome you to your first meeting virtually. I understand he's going to attend land use in person tomorrow night, but he's going to join us for a little while, and we're delighted to have you, Mr. Wilson. Would you like to say anything to the committee? We're just delighted to have you.
Sure.
You unmuted?
Yes.
I certainly don't want to slow the meeting down. I know it's 7 o'clock at night, but I just want to let all of you know that I haven't seen in the building yet how excited I am to be your new city clerk, and excited to get going today, and looking forward to seeing all of you all in person soon. It's certainly no later than next Monday night.
Super. Thank you very much. And we'll just stay for as long as you can, and then we will see you more later. I'm also joined by Councilor Maliki, not a member of the committee, but welcome and anytime. So our first item, and as a commissioner, yes.
Right in.
There he is.
Even closer.
There he is. Even closer. Come to the table, please. We've been joined by Councilor Wright, a member of the committee from Ward 3. This is item 2324, which is an update on the short-term rental ordinance compliance and enforcement. It's a long docket item, so I won't read it in the interest of time, but I think we had this conversation before, but we wanted to find out what progress you made and what you had to report to us.
Right. So as we're aware, there's about 200 registered STIs on the state register. Currently, we have 14 registered and moved. Out of that 14, we have 6 that are in violation, meaning through either ads or bedrooms that they're that we found as we were, looking through and making sure that they're still in compliance. We have actually sent out 17 violations recently to other STRs that we've found out, not through complaints. Complaints have been very quiet. Very little complaints, if none. So we would look through the ads, and we would look and see if we could find some that were in violation. So we've sent out 17 violations, and we're in the process of waiting for about a 35-day time period to go through before we start issuing tickets to them if they don't come into compliance.
So just to clarify, the 17 are ones in addition to the others?
Yeah.
Okay. And does that mean they're also not registered with the state?
Yeah, they are registered with the state, but they're not registered with the state.
Okay. But the first group you were talking about were people of those who are registered with the state.
With the state in the city.
In the
14, they're registered with the city in the state.
Okay, so there's another 17 beyond that.
Beyond that,
Who are registered with the state or
and not with the city.
and not with the city.
Correct.
And then do we pick up any who are not registered either place?
No, we haven't found any of those yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Questions from members of the committee? Councilor Wright.
I started a list too, and I've just been really busy lately, so I'm gonna forward it to you
Okay.
about other addresses and that. So the ones that are out of compliance, and there have been some troublesome ones in Ward 1 and also in Ward 3. Have you actually shut them down, and how long does that take?
Again, that's usually, so shutting them down. What we have been doing, like I said, we've written violation letters to cease and desist. And that brought them to come in and try and register. We won't register them until they take their ads down. So it's sort of a cat and mouse game. So we're giving them 35 days to come in compliance, meaning to take the ads down, not be in violation so they can register with the city.
But like these ones, I'm thinking, I forget what street it is. in
Yeah.
Lincoln.
Lincoln, they have separate apartment, which we don't allow, or only allow for 3 months of the year, and they're doing it
Okay,
full time.
okay. So have you sent any of those into ISD for,
Oh, that has been with ISD for a while.
is this, 1214 Lincoln?
Address, I'm not sure.
Hold on one second.
Why you look, I noticed that, thanks to, Mr. Heath for
Oh, yeah.
pointing it out. Mr. Lee, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did want to just tack on a little something after the Commissioner of ISD spoke, which is I think it's very important for the committee and everyone else here to remember that we amended the short-term rental ordinance just last year. Prior to the amendment, to put it frankly, ISD was struggling with enforcement. We were getting the runaround from the operators of the short-term rental. When we tried to go after the owner, the way that ordinance was drafted, the owner simply said, well, it wasn't me. I'm not the one posting this. And we really had no recourse against them. A couple minor changes, but very, very impactful changes were done by this committee in May of 2024. One of them made it so that if there's a violation, if there's an ad for the short-term rental, the owner is responsible. Also, only the owner could be the one that actually operates a short-term rental. It can't be a leasee, it cannot be a licensee, it can't be anyone in possession. So it really made it so that we had a very direct line to find the person that's responsible. And I think the commissioner can speak to this. That was a tremendous change that made it much more effective when we sent a violation notice, because we weren't getting the runaround anymore. Then we were able to go directly to the owner and say, no, you're responsible. It does not matter who else you're saying did this because this is your property. And that's been very effective. Also, before, when we had the notices that were online themselves, it was hard to kind of, again, find who was responsible, who we're going to be going after. We've simplified that by making it so that the registration notice that's issued by ISD has to be posted there. So it's very easy to find someone that's out of compliance just by looking at the notice. If you don't see the registration number, they're in violation. And then ISD was able to easily take the next steps. The reason I'm explaining all of this, and this is probably should have been a precursor to the commissioner's explanation, which is we are living in a slightly different compliance world than we were before, and a better one. Because again, the violations and the enforcements that were happening prior to the amendments, we were working hard on them, but they weren't as effective because we didn't have the clear line to who was responsible and then able to, as Council Wright put him, shut them down. Now we're able to do that. And I think the commissioner in his presentation, what he was trying to show was that, yes, we have these numbers of operators that we're aware of, and then all of the ones that we've received notices of that are in violation. With these amendments, we've been able to effectively, enforce the ordinance against them. So I just think that that's important background for the committee to recall. And the last thing that I will mention, we should probably refrain from talking about specific properties, but if councilors do have questions about specific properties, please feel free to reach out to either the commissioner or myself offline. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lee. Appreciate that. I'm going to recognize several counselors, but before I do, the commissioner, do you want to add anything to what was said?
Well, just as a property that Council Wright was talking about, we have taken care of that one,
Okay,
a while ago.
okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me recognize first Councilor Albright. I want to indicate also that Councilor Farrell has joined us online. And have I missed anyone else who is a member? I think I got Councilor Maliki. Okay. All right. Councilor Roberts.
Of the 17 that are registered with the state and not with us, and you've been dealing with them,
Mhm.
are they coming into compliance? Are they working on it, or are they?
They're working on it. They still have some time left on their cease and desist letter. Once 35 days has passed, if they haven't come into compliance, we will start issuing tickets. And once we start issuing tickets, if they do then want to come into compliance, they will have to pay the ticket before registering.
Okay. So, and are there any of them that are renting out the whole property?
Some.
So that's a
That-
total violation.
Well, it could be, but it might not be, depending upon how many bedrooms there are and how many people they're renting to. Typically, when we look at the ad, we'll see how many people they're renting to. It'll tell you the available bedrooms that are there and how many people it will hold, so.
Don't we have to have owner occupancy?
But the owner has to be occupy the premises for 9 months out of the year.
Uh-huh.
They don't have to be there when they rent. They can, some Airbnbs do have the owners there while they rent out a room. That's also common.
But if you're saying that they don't have to be there, I mean, the whole point was that we don't want to lose lots of properties to
Understood.
short-term rentals,
Yeah.
right? So are you checking to be sure that they're there for 9 months of the year, or are they, they're
They're
here?
pledging that they're there for 9 months out of the year. It's very difficult for us to actually check up on them if they're gonna be there 9 months out of the year.
It seems like a little loophole there.
Well,
Yes.
There's some people, I think,
Let me-
short, I'm sorry.
I just want to recognize Councilor Kalos has joined us. I don't want to leave him out of the picture. He's not on the screen. I'm so focused on trying to make sure all the people on the screen. I didn't mean but I had Councilor Gebbis. Would you yield to your colleague to for a follow-up?
Yeah, so some of them, and which we've looked at too, on the short-term rentals, the owners have like 3 or 4 in the city. So, which they're not living in all those places at once. So that's another, I mean, they're trying to get around
not
this.
the ones that we have registered though.
Okay,
Okay, that may be some others that you may be looking at, but not the ones that we have registered. And if we do find that they are, then, what commonly happens when we find out when people try to register, they own a 2-family home. And they say, well, I live in the home and I rent out this unit. We said, you can't do that. You have to live in that unit in order to rent that out. So you can either rent that out as not a short-term rental, or as, for over 30 days. And that would be fine, and you can then rent out the unit that you live in upstairs or downstairs, whatever it is. We have that's a common rejection that we find when they try to apply.
So let me put Councilor Oliver on the list, but Councilor Getz, you're next.
The only quick question I have is about this violation record.
Mhm.
And it seems to be that it's not gonna be a public record.
Right,
So it's not something that we're gonna be able to access and
Correct.
quickly check.
Yep.
So it would mean we'd have to get in touch with ISD in order to be able to sort of touch base
yeah,
and, find out the status of the property.
yes,
Okay,
yeah, you're not gonna be able to find it on any of the,
it's not gonna show up on the.
Correct.
Okay,
correct.
okay. Yeah, that's all I wanted to ask.
Okay, Councilor Danberg.
Thank you. If we have, if we find a situation, like the one that Councilor, Wright is describing, where we know that they own multiple addresses,
Mhm.
and they can't possibly be living in all of them for 9 months of the year. What do we do about that?
Well, we want to make sure that the address that they're talking about that may be being used as a short-term rental is the actual one that they live in. I mean, people do own multiple homes, so that would be the first thing we find out. And then ask some questions to be sure.
And if we have evidence that the other, let's say they own 4 and three of them, the other 3 of them are advertised in local media,
Mhm.
what's our recourse?
A request for zoning enforcement.
Okay. And have we shut any down yet?
Yeah, I can tell you, we've shut 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 12 down.
Good.
So out of the 200, okay, 48 of the short-term rentals that have been removed were have been removed. Were either registered, or have been sent a cease and desist order, or they continue to operate, and we're waiting for that 35-day period to expire before we start issuing tickets, or maybe they come into compliance within that time.
If they don't come into compliance,
Mhm.
is there a pattern to the reasons why they don't come into compliance?
I'd like to think there would be, but I don't know why they don't want to come into compliance,
Hmm.
or if that's the case. A lot of these are, operated by other people that don't own it, which they can do. Still, the owner is responsible, which, as Attorney Lee had stated, is a big help for us in doing our enforcement, because we just go right to the owner. We really don't care who's operating it.
Mhm.
The owner can then deal with the operator who's taking care of the property for them, and either tell them to cease and desist, or, you know, because they're getting tickets or violations now.
Mhm. Mhm. And how many media do we tend to monitor?
I mean, the big ones are the VRBO and of course Airbnb. VRBO posts a state registration number on their sites.
Mhm.
So if we look through that, we can cross-reference that with the state list and come up with the address pretty easily.
Well, that's all for me, and thank you very much for coming in and talking to us about this, and I think we're learning the steps that we need to take slowly but surely. It seems like if you shut down 12, that's good news.
Yeah. And hopefully there'll be more. Try to get them roasted.
Councilor Allen.
Great, thank you, Chair. Just a couple of quick questions. If there are more, but if I heard correctly, there are more short-term rental properties listed with the state in Newton than there are registered in Newton. In other words, there are some registered, right? Does the state do some sort of monitoring, trying to keep tabs on, keeping people, property owners in line?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I could check into that.
I'm curious because it is interesting to me that they would register with the state but not with the city.
Mhm.
So there's gotta be something going on there.
I believe too, a lot of these that are in the city now probably don't even realize they have to register in the,
Yeah, fair enough. Sure, that could be totally reasonable.
yeah.
Rationale why.
A lot of them just think, oh, well, you know, I can do this, I can do that, and rent these out when I'm out of town, and, you know, it shouldn't be a problem, but
Got it.
they have to be registered.
So, I want to recognize Councilor Kritzman, who's got his hand
I
up.
have one more,
Yeah,
if that's
oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, just 1 second, Josh. So then. Right. You had also mentioned that the pathway to identifying additional short-term rental properties in the city is probably through complaints. Or people saying, hey, what's going on
Yeah.
across the street, around the corner, what
Yeah.
have you. And you were saying that, I'm actually kind of surprised that that's not happening.
The complaints,
Yeah. But you're not getting any.
we are not getting any.
Great, okay.
The ones that we were getting were the ones that we squashed.
Sure.
It was at the 12 or 14, I said that,
Yeah, the one on,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that one.
yeah, and that all happened when.
And then was the other one on that other road?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
thing?
that's all, that was part of that one. And that was part of the changes, like Council Lee was saying, that the council had made to make it a
Sure.
little easier for us to enforce, particularly against the owner. And which has made it much easier, or better, efficient, more efficient.
Fantastic. Thank you, I appreciate that.
Let me go to Councilor Kritzman and come back.
Yeah.
Is that right? Then Councilor Albrecht.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just, I think, a quick question or clarification. When you say shut them down, what does that mean? Because I know we can sort of fine under the ordinance, but what is it, Commissioner Chicarella, what does that mean to have shut down a short-term rental?
They are no longer renting as short-term rentals.
Because of some enforcement action that the city took, or
Yes.
I'm just trying to understand I think it's great. I don't
They,
know what it means.
they've mutually agreed not to
Yeah.
continue operation. And most of those homes were owned by the same people. So they had several homes that we located that they were owners at, and then we had brought them in, talked to them at the counter and said, you know, you really can't be doing this. You know, we're gonna start fining you if you continue, and they decided not to.
Okay, so they're not under a legal prohibition from operating. It's that they have decided that compliance with the ordinance is they're unable to comply with the ordinance for some reason,
Yeah, well,
don't have interest in it, and would rather not operate a short-term rental.
Right, they own so many homes, it was that same question that was asked earlier, that they couldn't be in compliance. They would have to only have one in the city.
Right. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Just Mr. Yo, our Chief Operating Officer, had a point to add.
Quickly, one thing to remember is that we've now started this program to allow fining directly of these situations. So on top of the enforcement work, so we're getting a little bit more teeth into this. And then I think Programs and Services recently, Mr. Chair, passed a home rule petition for going forward to allow us to put liens on property where pet fines are not paid. So we're adding some teeth in here along the way. So and then money usually, as we're finding with leaf blowers, usually does the trick, not all the time, but there are some, I don't know, Counselor Lee, city could explain some of our other tricks, but you know, we're hopeful that these tools are going to get us to compliance.
So, I've got several people who've spoken, but I want to recognize someone who hasn't yet, if you don't mind. Counselor Maliki.
Thank you. I didn't I didn't catch at the beginning. I think Mr. Chigarella said how many we have registered in the city. How many is that?
14.
I'm sorry, 4 or 40?
Yeah, 14
Only 14 are
registered.
That seems unbelievably low.
I
Given what
agree.
you find when you do an Airbnb, for example, search. Is there, I'm looking on the website, there used to be a list of the ones that were registered and I cannot find that list. Is that available on the website?
You should have that list in your hands.
No, if I'm a person, like a resident checking on the website,
Yeah.
on the page about short-term rental information,
That should be on there.
there's a line that says short-term rental registrations issued, but there's nothing below it. And then there's stuff about, you know, applications are submitted here.
Possibly it wasn't updated.
It's been on there recently, but we'll check on that.
Yeah.
Okay. And basically it sounds like you have no way to find unregistered by the state short-term rentals because
It's you have to be you got to be pretty investigative to try to
right. So you're kind of basically doing what Pam and I occasionally do late at night and crawl through the list.
when we have time.
Yeah.
Same with us.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
We see how they spend their late nights.
sounds like fun.
And I would say quickly that, you know, AI is, there's some challenges with AI, but this is an example of where now AI, there's some building somewhere that's
Benefits.
generating us quickly information where if you have a photo of a property, you can pretty quickly figure out where that photo is, where it actually is located. So we're using that.
Okay, so and the complaints, so there have been no complaints at all in, say, the last year?
Not since we got rid of those 12 or 14 troublesome ones.
High volume, yeah, the very visible ones.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I hope the AI approach or whatever will produce some results because
It has, like I said, it takes a little time, but
yeah.
you know, once we get the ones that we're working on now, these 17, we'll open up another string and see what we can find out of them and just keep knocking them down.
Okay, thank you. And what is the amount of the fine? How much total have we collected in fines?
We haven't collected anything in fines.
Because none of them have reached the
Well,
35 days.
we just started this program trying to, with D17, to issue them a cease and desist
Mhm,
After 35 days, if they're still in violation, we will start writing tickets.
mhm.
We can write those tickets daily at $300 a ticket.
And it's $300 a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and well,
Councilman, Melican, he
yeah,
hit
we have
on,
to write tickets every day for this particular type of fund.
so there's
It doesn't accumulate like a zoning violation does. Where it's just a by day increments.
Hmm. Well, the other home rule petition that we approved applying for was to increase maximum fines from 300 to, I guess it's 2,000. Not that we would have to go all the way, but it seems like the rentals on some Airbnbs, they could make more in a day than the fine.
Maybe.
that's a comment, Councilor Melican. I think
Yeah.
we've had some discussion before you joined, so.
Okay.
If you don't mind, I'm gonna ask.
Okay, thank you.
Bring it back to the committee. But before I do, Commissioner, you've outlined a number of things here that may benefit from just a supplemental memo from you when we're done in response to some of the questions that you've heard that could be attached to the report. So that would, I think, help just to add to the information you've already provided. Now, let me go back to, I think I had,
Amberg and then Albright.
yeah, Danberg, Albright, and then Wright again.
Okay. The 12 that are now shut down,
Mhm.
do you know whether those 12 have turned into or gone into inventory as long-term rentals?
I would imagine that they would have, but I can't guarantee that.
Yeah, but because that's one of the goals that we have,
I get it,
increase housing for long-term
Families, yeah.
families,
Yep,
yes. That I think would be a good statistic to find out if you can ever do a follow-up on that.
Mhm.
Are there any, first of all, liens? That is a great idea, that we have been able to have them go to lien. Are there any other categories of violation in ISD that you can put a lien on a home for?
Well, currently we can't. We're waiting for that to go through.
So do we need to, does the city council need to detail exactly what we want the lien to be able to be put on for? Do we have to name every violation?
I'll let
Chair,
Dan
can I
speak
speak
to
to that,
that.
please?
Councilor Lee? Attorney Lee? Well, he's Counselor C-O-U. S-E-L-O-R.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I can answer Councilor Danberg's question. So really what you're talking about is an authority the city doesn't have yet. As the chair mentioned, we were over at PNS the other week, what was the last Wednesday? And they had approved the authorization for the mayor to file request for special legislation with the state. That will allow two things. One is increase the amount of a fine of up to $2,000, and then also to use a lien on a property for outstanding fines. And to answer your question directly, with regards to the lien, that doesn't happen automatically. Let's just say that the city council approves that, the mayor then files it with the state and the state approves it, and the city then has the ability to lien a property for outstanding fines. At that point, the city council, in conjunction with the mayor, is going to have to amend the ordinances to identify exactly which violations can be liened.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And question to the head of ISD, are there any changes that we as a city council, or we as zoning and planning, and then to the city council, could make to help you with your enforcement?
Right now, I think the changes that were made last year are helping a lot. I'd probably leave it alone for a bit,
Okay.
Unless we come up with some other issues that may arise.
Good, thank you.
Okay. I think now Councilor Albright,
Thank you.
and then Councilor Wright.
I'm a little confused on the numbers. I have numbers 200, 17, and 14 in my head.
Mhm.
What is 200? Are there,
202 registered with the state.
the state,
Yeah. That are in Newton,
that are in Newton.
yes,
And of the 200, how many are registered with the city?
14,
So we have a long way to go.
we do.
Okay, I didn't quite catch that the first
But
time.
a lot of it too is stopping the ones, out of those 202, a lot of them are duplicates. Same addresses over and over again, if you check down the list. There are many of them that have the same address, which, for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe they registered 2 or 3 times. But a lot of them have the same addresses, which are duplicates. And let's see,
And what's the 17?
for the 17 are the most recent violations that were sent out to cease and desist. They're
Okay,
not registered in the city.
okay,
We've told them they need to be registered in the city and told them, hey, you have to stop all your ads, remove everything. And within that time period, that 35 days, you can come, well, when they come and apply at the city, we'll check and make sure that all their ads are down and have them apply and see if we can get more registered.
so are you doing this a chunk at a time? I mean, so that's the 17, and then when that's dealt with, you'll take another 17?
Yeah, or 10 or whatever we can. take.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's gonna take a while to get through that list.
everything takes time.
What do you think? Is it a year? Is it 6 months? What is it?
I would say more than a year.
More than a year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Get them into full compliance.
I'm trying, yes. Yeah,
Also, remember that there are compliance issues that then come up.
yeah. So even the ones that are registered.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We have 6 that are not compliant with the registration, so we
Right.
have to go back and check with them too.
and I assume that over the year that you're getting after the rest of the 200, there'll be other things happening.
Of
So you
course.
have to keep up with that as well.
So, I mean, Councilor Wright, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Commissioner, it does seem to me that if you've got 200 that you know in Newton are registered with the state, but not registered with the city, and if you can somehow exclude the duplicates, shouldn't a letter go out to at least everybody right away and say you have to register with the city? It's not a violation, but their ordinance basically says you've got to register with the city. I mean,
Right, but a lot of the ones that are registered with the state, not all are actually renting at this time.
I understand, but,
So basically what we're looking for are the ones who are breaking the rules.
right, but isn't it be a useful sort of preemptive act to communicate with everybody and say, look, if you're in the state register and you're in the city of Newton, you have to register with us if you operate.
Yeah.
It just seems to me that that would be a relatively low cost,
Right.
and get some, compliance in advance rather than wait for a violation.
We can look into that.
You never know,
Yeah.
some might come in and.
Yeah, but out of these 17, we're getting, a lot of them coming in and saying, we didn't realize, we didn't know.
Well, that's why I think the other is important, because as our colleagues have pointed out, the purpose of this is to keep these properties available for regular rental, not have them diverted into the short-term rental stock. And so to the extent that you can reach out to everybody, that you have at least the names or the addresses for, seems to me, and say, this is the Newton ordinance, notice that there is a violation, it goes to the property owner. It just seems to me that that would be a prudential way of
Okay.
increasing your enforcement reach without a lot of effort on individual cases. But, sorry, apologies, Councilor Wright.
That's okay. So, Councilor Danvers, asked my question is there anything else that we can do? And to make your job easier? One of the things that I'm doing is I'm not even looking at, I go on Airbnb, and if they have a picture of the front of the house, it's really easy to get an address, but if they don't, I look out the window, see what it is, you got an area, go on Google, trying to figure it out. I mean, it takes a long time to come up with an address. And that's what I'm doing to find those.
So sometimes you can use interior pictures and then search realtor sites
Yeah,
that maybe that it was for sale or listed, and then get the address that way.
AI can do a lot of that for you.
yeah.
Yeah. It's
Somebody
really-
is more
very cool.
AI, and it's nice.
Councilor Danvers.
When I was doing a lot of volunteer work for the Historical Society, I learned that in the 1930s, as part of WPA, every single house in the city of Newton was photographed as part of a make work project or a work project. And so the Historical Society has a photograph of every house that was in existence in 1930s. So the city might be able to now with AI download those facades, and it would make it a whole lot easier if we had a picture of the house. We
That
can
helps,
do an
yeah.
instant ID.
Yeah, I don't know how that would be as far as a lot of time has passed since.
Oh, sure,
1930, so-
but let's say 70% of the houses are still there.
Yeah, still there or may have changed in some way through some work that was done, but I mean, it's an option, you know?
We also have all those photographs in the assessor's database,
Yes.
right? They're already in the same.
Oh, that's
database.
right, too. Yeah.
Google has them all.
Google
Yeah.
has it all.
Google has it all.
Any other questions for the commissioner? Seeing none, I just want to thank the commissioner and his staff and Mr. Yo.
Already know about this.
And attorney slash counselor Lee, not counselor Lee. But Commissioner, I think that the sense of the committee is that we want to cheer you on, but expand your reach. So if you wouldn't mind, as I indicated, just producing sort of a supplemental memo that you can give to Ms. Holden and
Okay.
that we can attach to the report, I think will be helpful for everybody. Okay?
I'm good.
All right. So this is an item we've held multiple times, but the question is, you want to, it would have to be redocketed for the new term. So do anyone want to, it will disappear on its own, but we can NAN it and then bring it back. So I bring it back as a committee item after the first of the year, but if that's agreeable to the committee, because I think we'd like to stay up with you on this about every 6 months.
Can we just let it die instead of voting no action necessary?
Sure.
Because I feel like some things don't deserve a no action necessary.
All right, we can.
And then we'll have a list of.
I think then the motion is to hold and then it will die.
Yes,
All right,
yes.
okay. So is
So I'll
that what you're
vote,
moving?
Yeah.
All right, motion to hold, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Abstention, the ayes have it. The second item, and again, the commissioner is our guest for this, is 26825, requesting discussion and possible revisions to the fee structure for initial estimated construction costs. And I should read this one because it sets up the conversation. Councilors Wright, Lucas, Maliki, Oliver, and Getz requesting discussion and possible revisions to the fee structure for initial estimated construction costs. That is utilization of a minimum of 250 square foot to finished space. If construction costs are below the threshold, the developer can provide documentation of their costs for review. Discussion would include best practices, state laws, and neighboring communities' practices. So, and I just want to say at the outset, this is an item about what is the right number for estimating the building permit cost, as I understand it. That's really all we're talking about. But I want to be clear that the commissioner can respond about what this is about and what he's doing.
Sure. So the right number, in ordinance 17-7, estimated construction costs shall be computed by multiplying the gross floor area by the average square foot cost as published in the latest edition of Means Cost Data by Iris Means Company, or similar recognized national survey data. So we've done research with other municipalities, find out how they did it. We used ICC, which is the International Co-Council, which is the similar recognized national data. Other municipalities will use Means, but there are several that use the same one we use. And we base the average cost per square foot for this list, which comes out twice a year, once in August, once in February. Currently, that cost per square foot for 1 and 2 family homes is $170 per square foot.
Okay, so questions, Councilor But before I do, this is, I just want to see if any of the documents are part of this, when I send you first.
Go ahead.
Well, we've got several documents.
A lot of hands.
And then I'll come to you, Counselor Albrecht, if you don't know. Counselor Wright?
We had a discussion a little bit ahead of time to understand this a little bit, and this is something that really you've just put in recently, because we've gotten complaints from residents that it didn't make sense.
The recent complaints that we were getting from residents were that the information was not correct. They were using square footage either from Realtor ads or somewhere else, not where I have shown where we use it from the conditioned floor area on the HERS rating, which I think I sent to everybody here. Okay, this way here, it's somewhere that it's consistent, and this is for new homes or new buildings. So I think it's a fair and even way to do this. I believe the whole idea was, when I took the job here, was to try to get these in order. Okay, and I believe we have. Deputy Commissioner Lavrella says he's reviewing the plans for these. If they're below 170, he's saying he's kicking it back. So we're pretty stern on it.
But in the past, years ago, that wasn't necessarily.
Years ago, it wasn't adhered to that practice. So we're trying to, or I believe we've made it as it should be, as it's stated in the ordinance.
Yeah, and as our discussion is, most cities and towns use very similar to what we're using.
Yeah, I can tell you other towns. So Brockton, RS Means, Westboro ICC, Stoughton ICC, Canton is RS Means, Newburyport is ICC, Newton's ICC. It's all over the place, but it's mainly the two that we didn't see anything else or any other national recognized square footage reports.
And the Hertz rating, for other people who don't know, that's the conditioned space.
It is the condition.
So it includes basement, includes attic.
Well, basements if it's conditioned.
Conditioned, yes, conditioned.
Attics, if they're conditioned. I know some people say, well, why are you using FAR? Well, let's put let's use the old 6'11" attic area, which won't count to FAR, but they call it conditioned storage. Well, that will get added to the square footage count of that property.
And also FAR for most houses don't include the basement either, and
Correct.
this one does.
Well, it does if it's finished.
Yeah.
Condition.
Conditioned. Air and.
Can't imagine you haven't.
Or
finished
heat.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
This is talking about whether it's heated or cooled, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, I'm just so we all clear on what conditioning means. Okay, other parts of the documents? I just want to make sure. If not, I want to go to Counselor Albright, because she was the first.
Well,
Oh, excuse me, Counselor Getz.
Yeah,
you
the
were
only
first.
question, you answered my question about what conditioned meant, and then the other part was, I'm sort of surprised that, it's so regional. I think that, you would want to get to the specificity of what the actual construction costs are in the city.
Mhm.
I just didn't understand how, there's nothing, it's either or, there were just two
Yeah.
systems.
I'm just following what the ordinance says.
Okay, all right, and you think it's pretty much,
I think we do pretty well.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
Okay, now let me go to Counselor Albright, because she was the first non-documented.
So there are a couple of residents of Newton who call me regularly on this topic. One of them no longer lives in Newton, and always complaining that this house, I think the issue sort of goes to what Counselor Getz was just asking you. If it's regional or state, it doesn't really reflect necessarily what houses are selling for in Newton, Massachusetts.
Mhm.
So I don't know if I did this right, but if you have a $2 million house that's 3,000 square feet, so you divide that up and you come to something like, I don't know, $600 a square foot. That's so much higher than, this is what these people are looking at.
Yeah.
These houses sell for $2, $3, $4, $5 million,
But
and yet their building permits are for much, much less.
right, but again, it's not what the property is sold for, it's what it costs to build. Okay, and what they're saying is to use the average national cost per square foot.
So are we saying that those average costs per square foot are accurate for Newton, Massachusetts? What it costs to build a house?
No, I would say it would be a little more, but I mean,
We'd have to change the ordinance.
yeah,
So it's on us then to change the ordinance.
yeah. But again, there is. I know some residents are saying the city is leaving money on the table. And we're not. What we're doing is we're trying to price these things as fairly as possible. Newton is a very well-to-do community and does it cost probably more to build homes here? I'm not gonna dispute that, but I think this is a fair amount right now. This goes up, this comes down. It goes with how the market proceeds that it should be. Go ahead. Sorry.
So
Well, let me just finish by saying that when folks look at the way things sell and the cost per square foot based on that, they just feel like, okay, we have budget problems in Newton, we're leaving money on the table. And I would love to hear Mr. Yo, because he's saying, no, that's not right.
Mr. Yo, I'm gonna let you, why don't you just pull your chair up where people can hear
Yeah.
you? Or come stand,
Right here.
stand next to the
Yeah,
table.
thank you. So we have an amazing assessor who works for the city. And he will make sure that once this property is on the books of the tax rolls of the city, that we're assessing it correctly. So we will have all of these homes pay once the value of the home, not the cost of construction, but the value of the home is assessed from the year, the January on of the year. So we'll get to the value, I think the one important thing to remember is we've seen record revenue from the building permits over the last several years. Every year it's been going up. And so we're doing very well, despite the fact that permits are down 30 or 40%. There's a lot less development going on now in the city. But the value of the work has been going up. So we're catching that value through the system that ISD has installed. It has to be a fair system. It can't be something that, frankly, any of us decide what a number is. It has to be something that is set, and that's what all communities do. They're not, picking a number themselves. And we don't have like an analytical team to be going and actually calculating what the actual number, whether if it's 178 or 190 here or something like that. We don't have the ability, we would never have the ability to go and do that. So we have to use something that's fair.
Keep in mind that 170 is the base. And we also get the final cost affidavits. Some come in higher than the 170. Even prior to the final cost affidavits are sent in. And I did correct that final cost affidavit then.
And also it includes like gas and electric is on top of
Yeah.
it, so there's other fees on top of it.
For people who are watching, who are maybe not building experts, when somebody comes in and asks for a building permit, they're charged a fee based on the estimated construction cost, right? And the builder or whoever applies for the permit has to give an affidavit that says that that's an accurate number.
At the very end of the project.
At the very end of the project. And so if the number is below what your table indicates, that raises a question in your mind that whether that's an accurate number.
If the original number is lower than what it should be, we will kick it back to them and not issue them the permit. We'll say, you need to readjust your costs in order to meet.
But there still is an obligation to certify at the end what the cost is.
Right.
Right, and that certification, is that alert certification under pains and penalties of perjury, or does it?
It's notarized by a notary saying that, yes, they are stating that.
They are attesting to that. So if it turns out, you find out that property actually took more to build, more expensive, there's at least a possibility of recourse.
I haven't seen that happen, but I don't know, maybe there would be.
Well, Mr. Lee might be able, Council Attorney Lee might be able to advise us at some point, but let me go back to other colleagues in the committee. Who else wanted to talk on this? Councilor Caleb or Councilor Danbury?
Thank you. What does the 170 not include? I think it would be helpful for people listening and for those of us in the room to have a recap on what's not included in the 170.
Landscaping, fencing, retaining walls, any drainage system that's installed. Those are all typically, drainage is handled by engineering, so that would be on their end, and any landscaping that they do there, we don't consider.
Okay.
It's not anything that would require a building permit. Okay, retaining walls typically under 4 feet do not require a building permit. So we don't include them in costs, but to build the house. So foundation, the roof, and all the interior.
Plumbing,
Electrical, HVAC, gas, all that stuff.
Okay,
Is what's included.
thank you.
Okay, Councilor Caleb.
So, the doctors, one of you, what was the objective of the item? Did you think we were too low? Did you think, what would,
Oh, we're not too low or not consistent.
okay, so.
And if I may,
Yeah.
I'll add to that. We wanted to hear what the process that the city was going through, because we heard there was a process, but we didn't know what it was.
Right.
We wanted to understand it.
So the commissioner, you had mentioned a variety of different communities. You didn't mention Needham, Wellesley, Brookline.
Wellesley, yeah.
Or ICC as well?
I think Wellesley is ICC, or, well, it was never found. They're on the list here, but. No, they don't have anything, they just have their per square foot. And ours means, yeah. We only had so many, so some we couldn't get any information from, but,
Brookline,
Brookline uses ICC, I believe. Brookline didn't have theirs. Brockton has Iris means, Newton is ICC.
it's,
Framingham
you don't
is
have
out.
any that you mentioned that were right around where we are.
Yeah,
And that's what is curious.
well, if they're using ICC, they should be exactly where we are.
Right, but all the ones that I just asked about aren't showing up.
We didn't get the information on those particular ones.
So can we know if those are ICC or not?
I can continue to look and see, sure.
Yeah, I'd wanna know Needham, Wellesley, Brookline, Weston, Watertown. Just right, Waltham, right in this area.
Yeah.
It was curious when you were mentioning those.
Yeah.
And I think it is great, Mr. Yo, that we've been increasing the revenue. But the question really is, what are we missing out on potentially? And that's why I want to understand those right in our area, because if they're using something different, we should know that.
Right, we're only allowed to really collect so much money through this program, and all of you should be well aware of that. We have to be very careful here.
Yeah.
So I think we should go into more of that, but
I'm just curious, is there a cap or is there?
no, but we should just be very
I
careful.
think the point is that you're trying to, if the building permits are based on the cost of the building, we want to just make sure the cost is accurate. And so I think, Commissioner, that's the only question that's really before us. And you've used, according to what the ordinance requires, a table of nationally recognized. And I think the only supplemental information would be helpful to add is again, part of your supplemental document would be what the surrounding towns use as an index. And an explanation of it, if it's not the same means or the IT, is it ITC or
ICC.
ICC?
Yeah.
So any other questions from the committee, not the committee? So this one, I entertain a motion for actually, any end on this one.
I'm happy to NAN this one.
All right.
And thank you for taking the time to kind of take one step back to bring us to.
Yep.
This was ISD's night at the pub. And so we appreciate you being here, Earl.
Thank you for having me.
All right, you move,
Oh, hold on.
Councilor Albright.
We could go ahead and get the data that Councilor Kayla was.
I am going to get that, yeah. I'll do the best I can to get.
That'd be good.
All right, so, motion to NAN, all those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention? All right. Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I should just point out that we could have watched a couple of short subjects here in the meantime, but never mind. We're so delighted to welcome item 31625. This is CPC recommend. Thank you, Commissioner.
Yep.
CPC recommendation to appropriate $1,997,000 in CPA historic resource funding. This is unrestricted prior year reserves for a grant to the West Newton Cinema Foundation for their building stabilization project. And who is going to present this?
Yeah, I'm,
And would you just identify yourself for the
Yeah.
public?
hello, I'm Molly Hutchings. I'm the Community Preservation Program Manager. If I haven't met you yet, I did forget to join the Zoom ahead of time, so I'm just gonna do that quickly so I can share my PowerPoint presentation. Buzz Dunker is our chair and he's also online.
Thank you, Dr. So take the time to get organized. Can you help her at all? Please, she needs.
No, I just gotta here.
I think she has to let you share.
Are you in the meeting room? I just entered. So I didn't miss you. And it says I'm Katie Weevil, but I'm not. Perfect. Yeah, you should be good. Here we go. Thank you. So we are presenting for the West Newton Cinema for their building stabilization phase of work.
Before you start, can I ask, can we make the screen big enough to pick up the side? There you go.
We were previously here about a year ago to talk about their feasibility study, which has since finished. And now the Cinema Foundation is moving into their first construction phase, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that. So this is what we're calling the building stabilization project. It is mostly a roof replacement and an electrical service upgrade. It's also the restoration of all egress doors, some insulation and water service upgrades, and interior work that repairs water damage that came from the poor roof situation. The building is eligible for CPA funding. It's eligible for historic resource funds as it is listed within the West Newton National Register District. And all of the work here is eligible. It falls under the rehabilitation standard for the Secretary of Interior standards. I know Elizabeth from the foundation is on the call, and I'm sorry, Elizabeth, for showing this picture, but this is what the roof looks like at the top of the cinema. This is why they need a new roof. This is not the scariest picture I have. So.
They're saving that for Halloween.
I know. This was the one that fit best into the presentation.
Is that mold,
No, it's just plaster that's been.
the black?
Oh, I don't know. For the most of what you see, it's just the erosion of the plaster. So it is a big project. They're asking for just short of $2 million, but it is 50% of the project budget. So it is a 1-for-1 match. I had recommended this out of prior year reserves, thinking I had already been to you emptying out our historic reserves, but I have not. So that was the original recommendation, that it would all come from the unrestricted prior year reserves. But it can also be amended to allow for it to come out of the historic reserve account. That was a mistake.
Conversations, let me just clarify that. As I understand it, 10% every year has to be allocated to the 4 categories that, of one of which is historic, and that fund has been building up for a while, as I have it.
It just has this year's money.
Just it?
Yeah.
But is there enough in that 10%? That seems like a lot of money.
It's 500,000 change.
So you would
So
have,
we could empty it and use the balance from the fund I have here.
so I guess the question is, did the CPC make a recommendation to
No,
use it?
this is just me picking out the funds.
Okay, so does the council, I just want to make sure we're clear about this. Can we pass the item with the allocation to the reserves first and then the balance from the unrestricted?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, we should just double check that, because if the CPC, our ability is to pass or reject funding as it comes to us, as I understand it, and if it hasn't got a funding source, I just want to clarify that. I think it makes sense personally, but I just would like to make sure. Okay, Councilor Caleb?
Along with that, you might have it in here, can you outline the balances?
I don't have it, sometimes I do. I don't have it today, but there is about 5.5 million in this fund that I have up here.
Yeah, restricted.
The unrestricted.
Okay,
But that's not already committed this year?
It's not on.
Okay,
and is 5.5 million, does that represent 1 year, 2 years of accumulation?
That one, it's our starting balance, so there's a little bit left over from last year, I think, in that one, but.
but there are bonding commitments and things like that already. Have those been,
Just,
they've been set aside, so you're talking about above and beyond whatever we're paying on Webster Woods for.
yeah,
So
So
is
it's
that
about
5
the-
million use that, or is that not?
yes, it is fine to use that. fund.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to
It's
understand.
unencumbered.
We're just trying to get it. So the money that is available for this project and every other project would be basically $1.5 million is coming out of unrestricted, $500,000 coming out of restricted, and then you've still got about 3 million on top of that, as I hear it, available for everything else that's not already committed. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And again, when we get the final report, I think that information Councilor Kalis has asked for would be
I'll
helpful.
be sure to attach the balance.
Yeah, you can just put it in there or something.
Because this was part of
Yeah,
your
that's mine.
presentation for when we were doing the Suzuki school,
Yeah.
so I don't know if this can help you right now in terms of balances.
Not really, because it's about a month old, but.
Okay, okay.
I just want to make sure that we get the answer also to the 5.5. Does that represent 1 year, 2 years, or what? Approximately,
That's about 1 year. 5 is about 1
about
year.
1 year, okay. All right, that's good. to know.
We get money from the city and then there's some state match on
Yeah,
top of it.
sure.
Sure, Councilor Vice Chair.
And can you remind me, if it's not in the slide that's coming up? Unrestricted is still somewhat restricted, but it's not the historic, it's not the open space, it's not the. Can you give me just a
Oh.
reminder?
The funds can be used for any of our categories, but any project that's funded with unrestricted funds still has to adhere to all the rules for whatever category they're funded.
Right, whether it's open space,
Yeah.
historic.
They still have to fit into one of those 4 categories. They still have to follow all of the regulations for it. It's just that the money can go to any of them.
Perfect. Thank
So-
you.
One of I have a question about this, but I want to see if other members of the committee have any first. If not, let me just ask a couple of them. The funding is, there's an indication of an equal amount coming out of the West Newton Foundation. Is that money in hand? We've had a situation, I remember, with the church towers where whether the city had to go in first in order to get to sort of leverage the rest, or is that money in hand? Where are we with the balance?
Elizabeth Heilig, I think, is on the call, might be able to answer that in more detail. I know some of it is in hand and not all of it.
So are we paying out money dollar for dollar when they've got it, or, I mean,
We have to receive proof of payment to pay payment, so it's more like a reimbursement.
okay, but they can let a contract and they can, I guess, put some money down. The question is, are we sure that we're going to get the match? That's the question. I suspect if not in this committee, it'll be asked in finance, right? So I think we need to be clear about sort of the funding sequence and the assurances involved.
Molly, is somebody named Ray associated with the?
Oh, yes, Ray's the treasurer, yes,
Of the
the foundation.
foundation, okay, welcome.
And Elizabeth is also on meeting.
Hi, yeah, if you don't mind, I'd be
Welcome
happy to
both,
answer the
and
question.
if we can unmute you and make you visible.
Here I am.
Uh,
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak for a minute. Just for some clarity, we're sitting today with just a tick over $2.5 million in cash on hand. Now, we have some working capital needs against that cash, but we have already started the quiet phase of specific fundraising toward this project and have secured the first $500,000 from a single donor. And that money has come in hand and is included in the balance that I just stated. We feel very confident that we're going to raise the rest of the funds, but as Molly mentioned, I think the understanding is we would do this $3,994,000 project in a few phases. The most urgent piece is the roof repair, and the cost of that contract is $984,000. So we have all of the cash in hand to move forward with that piece of the contract, and we will continue our fundraising efforts to raise the balance of the match. But I do want to reiterate that we are sitting with $2.5 million in cash today, unrestricted cash.
I think it would be helpful if, again, you just gave a little summary of that and write it into
Add to the record.
add to the record, okay.
Yeah.
Questions?
Yeah, can I
Councilor?
follow up to,
Yeah,
sorry, I just want to follow up to something that Councilor Baker just asked. And I think you were about to answer it, and then we went down this pathway. Are there any of these funds that are then being used to kind of further get other grants or other monies coming in, knowing that this is secured from the city?
I think, again, Ray and Elizabeth can speak to that. I know that they pursued a Mass Cultural Council fund for the feasibility study phase, but I'm not sure about this phase.
What do you think, Ray or Elizabeth?
So was the question whether we will be bringing in additional grants from other sources to match these funds?
In a previous project, there was a contingency, if I may use that term, that basically said, look, in order to qualify for this grant or even to receive this grant, we need to know that the city of Newton is already funding, and I forget the percentage of the project, but it was kind of the city had to basically commit to spending the funds the way that we just are being, in terms of reimbursement. But I'm curious to know if you have that same scenario where grants are contingent upon the city of Newton agreeing to this allocation.
No, we do not have that situation.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Danberg and then Councilor Obert, sorry. Okay, thank you.
Just a quick comment on Mass Cultural Council grants. I know that the NCA for the Allen House has received numerous grants from on the facilities grants. I'm sure that the West Newton Cinema would be eligible for a facilities grant. I just wanted to make sure that you have that on your list of because they're normally in the hundreds of thousands when the grants come in.
Yeah, yes, we do have that on our radar.
Councilor Albright?
Thank you. So the first thing I want to say is I'm thrilled that you all are doing this, and thank you very much for taking on the leadership to get it done, because it really makes a big difference for our city and certainly for West Newton. So I'm curious, is this the first of a series of renovations for the cinema? And do you have any idea how big the bread box is, so to speak? Where you're going with this? Either of you.
Okay, sure. Yes, this is phase A. We, as part of the feasibility study, which was performed, with support, from CPA as well. Thanks for that. We broke the proposed work into 4 phases, which are roughly equal in terms of expense. So this first phase laid the groundwork for additional work which we need to perform in the upcoming phases, namely upgrading the electricity and the water services for the building will enable us to install and power an elevator. It will also, in a later phase, it will also enable us to replace our aging oil-fired burners that heat the building with electric heat pumps, and we plan to do solar as well, to bring the building up to modern standards of sustainability in terms of energy usage. Water service will enable us to replumb and install upgraded bathrooms that meet accessibility and code requirements. So it's a long list. We plan to do it in phases, both in terms of time and in terms of as we're able to raise funds from grants and other sources, including Mass Cultural Council grants, which we do, the CFF, which we do plan to apply for this cycle. And the total project cost in the feasibility study was projected, including contingencies, was projected to be 19 million.
19 million, and that's for all the phases?
All of the phases and some extras.
But to follow on that, I've got Councilor Farrell, but I want to just ask a follow-up and then myself, if I can. Of the 19 million you're asking for the city to put in basically 2 now, what's your anticipated ask for the city for the balance?
So after we finish this phase and it comes to the second phase, we are hopeful that we can apply again, especially for support of historic restoration of various parts of the theater and for accessibility, which is something which falls within the CPA mandate.
But how much? You know?
So, I think we'll need to gauge that based on what funding is available, and what other projects are coming up.
Well, I just say that if you maintain it, that would be $10 million all the way through. And
Yeah.
I don't know if we have the wherewithal for that.
And that has, I'll just jump in to say that has been a topic of conversation at CPC meetings, as is the timelines of the project, which I forget what we looked at was maybe 2 or 3 years between phases to like all in all. So it's certainly not quickly moving, first of all. But I will say there has been a strong interest among the committee on funding accessibility improvements. And the cinema is one of our #1 public comments that we get at meetings about funding the cinema, is that it's not accessible, and when will it be, will this work make it accessible? So we at the committee meetings, we have seen quite a bit of interest in that.
But that's not in this budget.
The electrical work is
Yes, but
the
not.
preparation
yeah.
for it. So I think there's an interest in seeing that through.
Okay, so let me recognize Councilor Farrell, who's been very patient, not a member of the committee, but if you can become visible. Can we make him visible?
Sir.
Yeah, he's there.
Oh, there he is.
I hope I'm visible, Chair.
Yes, there you are.
Okay. And thank you very much for recognizing me. And I want to thank this group also for the work you're doing. I believe that the restoration of the West Newton Cinema can have a significant impact on lots of development in West Newton. I hope it will become a keystone for development in that area, appropriate development in that area. But the 4 million that you're trying to raise right now, that doesn't guarantee any of the other questions about accessibility and so forth. Is that correct? This is just basic foundational work. Am I correct in understanding that?
Yeah.
Would you like me to speak to that, Molly?
Question for you, Chair.
Yeah, I think either of us can. Yes, it's in preparation for future work, but there's no accessibility improvements at this time. It is just what needs to be done before those can happen.
And some of my other questions already answered about the total cost of the project, but when you're done with 19 million, well, let me ask you a first question. Is there a public capital campaign committee working with you all that is you can now or later make public to us? Who are the people who are leading this effort to raise essentially $15 million?
So the people leading this effort are our board members, and we have an extraordinarily gifted development consultant, Barbara Tillalian, who is on our board of advisors, who is leading the campaign with us.
I'm very happy to hear about Barbara Tillalian. I've known her for a number of years. Does this mean that the entire board is the capital campaign committee, or is the group dedicated just to this work?
We have a subcommittee, which includes myself, Ray, who is also on the call, our treasurer, and a third board member, Lynn Pepple. Actually, so 2 more board members, Lynn Pepple and Howard Barnstone, who are also on the capital campaign committee.
Okay, thank you. When you're done, and with this infusion of public monies, what will be the access to this building by groups not connected to West Newton Cinema? Do you have any sense about how this public money will allow other nonprofit organizations to use your facility? Is that on your agenda? Are you working with other nonprofits to ensure that they would be able to use the facility in some regard?
So we do already work with other nonprofits in the city, other community organizations in the city, which come to us to utilize our space for movie screenings or for other types of gatherings. So, and I expect that to increase, as we build our connections and our network within the community.
Believe me, I am terribly supportive of what you're doing, and I really want to see this to be a great success. But I'm very interested in looking at the history of the Coolidge Corner facility, where they actually now use it for more than theater work. And I don't know, in your planning, whether or not you think there might be a possibility of actually raising more money and creating new space that would be useful to other organizations that need space.
So I think right now we have our hands full with fixing up our historic building. We see a lot of potential. Part of the full capital campaign includes putting a stage into one of the theaters, which would allow us to expand live programming offerings and also expand the functionality of that space for other community groups who wanted to come in and use it or rent it, or private people who want to rent it. So
have you been approached by any other nonprofits to
Councilor Farrell, can I just ask that, I mean, these are detailed questions about their
about money,
their work, and I don't mean to limit your inquiry, but I think we have to decide if we can, just whether the foundation work that they're talking about is worthy. I think we will have more opportunities to examine other questions as well, but, is this?
Thank you, Chair. My thought about $2 million of public money plus some potential other money is only leading me to the notion that has there been sufficient thought in that, with that amount of money, that we are looking at other cooperative efforts that when they build something, it will in fact be useful to a broader community than just the film community. We're talking about putting a lot of money into this facility. And I understand that there are lots of arts organizations out there that could use some space. And before it all gets built and designed out, I guess I'm just trying to find out whether or not they're, and supported by public money, whether there are considerations as they move forward in doing something, in fact, more expensive. Thank you for letting me ask the questions. I appreciate it.
Sure. So now that Councilor Farrell has clarified the intent, do you want to respond? Kelly, I'm sorry, I can't read them.
Oh, sure. So in terms of the utilization of the space, our focus right now is on restoring this historic building. That's why we're here before CPC, restoring it so that it can be utilized as it was intended for a community gathering space, a movie theater, and for auditoriums that people are able to rent out. And there are very few places in Newton which are public gathering spaces quite like this. So I feel that we offer a lot to the community just in that respect. We had 60,000 people walk through our doors in the first 12 months of ownership, the majority of whom live in Newton. That's a lot of people who are coming to the theater and enjoying the theater every day and will, really appreciate it when it's beautiful and comfortable and accessible for everyone. And the people who benefit from it are across the age spectrum as well, from kids who come in for their first birthday parties, to people in their 90s who come in for birthdays, to people who are coming for our special events. And part of what we're doing as an organization is inviting people in. That's really at the heart of our mission, to invite them in to experience film, talk to one another, and to really shape a new place for the community to gather. So in terms of expanding to other usages, the space which we have now is the space that we have. There's not a whole lot of opportunity to build out, but in terms of building in, as I mentioned, we plan to add a stage. We also, for many years, the cinema has hosted Newton Camera Club for their annual show. We have an area upstairs in the mezzanine that we plan to turn into an exhibition space with new mounting hardware that's more functional and proper lighting so that we can show art year-round. There are numerous other arts organizations in addition to the Camera Club in the city of Newton that I think would be wonderful to work with in that respect, so that we can fully program this space. Another example is we have the wonderful Newton Book Ladies who meet once a month and set up a book exchange in our mezzanine. So that's an example of the kind of utilization that we want to build on, where people are welcome to come in, even if they're not seeing a movie, to participate, to see an art exhibit, to, go upstairs, enjoy the book exchange, to whatever else we have coming on. We're blessed with a large lobby that we can use for events like that. What we don't have is a lot of back of house space. So if you're thinking of studio space, for example, there's really not much of an opportunity for something like that. But we can offer meeting space to the community in our lounge, in our mezzanine area, and in our 6 theaters.
Let me just comment as I think most of us, maybe not everybody knows that you can, this Friday, you can go watch Arsenic and Old Lace in the afternoon, I think 1 o'clock for $10 through one of the community organizations. But I think that to respond to Councilor Farrell's, I think, fair question, My memory of having taken a tour through the Brookline Theater is that they actually expanded and they had the ability to make the footprint bigger than we do. I think we have a facility that basically is space bound on the outside. And so the question is, how do you make it work on the inside? I think that's the thrust of the, Ms. Hutchins?
I just want to quickly acknowledge that I didn't actually get to finish my presentation, but I think we.
I'm sorry.
I think we answered all the questions. I just had a quick slide on accessibility, which I think we've covered. But that picture, if I can just share again real quick. The picture of the lobby, I wanted to draw quick attention to that there are some, here we go. There is some interior work on this project as well. And part of the reason for including that, it's not just because it's badly water damaged and now that the roof will be fixed, ideally the water damage will stop, but also because it is something very visible and something that the community can see and feel that they know how the $2 million from their tax money is being spent. Anytime it doesn't rain on you inside, that's also their tax money at work. But this is something that I think will work to make people feel that they're moving along, that they're part of this project that's progressing.
Okay, Councilor Getz.
Did you want to have the chair, Mr. Ducker speak? Or did you, I can go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand was up.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Hi, just to clarify, when we were discussing all of this in our meetings and heard about the 4 phases, we felt that this first part was just restoring a historic structure, that if we don't give them the money, that with the roof leaking and all the electrical problems, the building will pretty much become useless. And so we thought the first $2 million was going to go towards that. And going forward with future plans, we said, well, you'd have to come back and let us know what that is. But that was our primary goal here, is just try to stabilize the building.
Thank you. Councilor Getz.
Just 2 quick questions. I'm on the city's webpage, for the West Newton Cinema. And I'm actually wondering, the actual report or the feasibility study report, was there any sort of final document that they issued?
Yes, you sent me that, right, Elizabeth? Yeah, I haven't put it on the website, but I will.
All right, because it would be really good to read through that, because I think that, just having an overview, in terms of what this is, in the eventual, but I'm assuming that first proposal was simply for the feasibility of whether or not it was even possible to restore the building?
Yes.
Okay, so that's just in terms of the content that we have, it's just looking at the stabilization of the building.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's pretty much what it's gonna be speaking to.
So stabilizing the building is phase A, as Elizabeth described, of a greater restoration of the building.
But it would be good to understand if in fact the total cost is going to be 19 million, what that pays for, in terms of, is that within the study itself? So that then we would be able to sort of, digest.
Correct.
Because I would like to have that conceptually, just to understand what the ask will be incrementally. And just, because if in fact it's gonna be a $20 million project.
Yeah.
Over 10 years, it's gonna eat up a bit of this budget, in terms of the historic resources. So it'd be good to sort of have that in mind,
Elizabeth did share it in a presentation at our committee meeting, about roughly what will be included in each phase of work.
Okay.
I didn't put them too far down the line because I didn't want to commit us to anything.
Yeah, but
too
maybe
quickly, but I'll put it on the website.
That would be great. And then the other piece is the actual appropriations, because I do think it's important for us before we go to full council to have an understanding of what, is paying for what, when you were talking about, how much is coming from the historic resources, how much is coming from the general fund, And I don't know if that means approval
I
and
think-
second call.
But no, but I still gotta go to finance, so what I would do is, if the committee is supportive of this item, to move it, to finance, in the aggregate, because that's what we have, with a request that they sort out the allocation in finance so that the board or the item can be reported with clarity. Because we can't do that tonight, I think, without Ms. Hutchins having the ability to do that. Councilor Oliver.
Thank you. So I appreciate the commentary. And as well from Elizabeth and Buzz and Ray. I understand and am in support of West Newton Cinema. I think that this first, tranche or whatever that term is, of funding makes sense because it protects the building and then obviously protects the envelope of the building. So the interior of the building has a chance of being renovated. I will say that I do have a significant concern if the plan could end up coming back to the city for a total of $10 million over the course of time. That is a boatload of dollars that right here, right now, I would be very uncomfortable if someone were here saying, look, the plan is X, right, over the course of 10 years, and it's a total of $10 million, I would be voting no. I understand nobody's asking for $10 million right now. But if that is where we are thinking, I would implore everybody at West Newton Cinema and the CPA to kind of figure out alternatives as well, because you might have a hard time convincing me that 10 million over the course of, given everything else that's in front of this city, is a wise way to allocate $10 million of CPA funds. Anyway, not really, don't take that as anything other than my thinking. You don't have to defend that. You don't have to address what might be coming down the road, because that's not in front of us.
Something that is said anytime we talk about giving a large amount of money to any project, especially any multi-phase project, is that the percentage of funding we're awarding tonight is not indicative of future percentages.
Correct, and I've acknowledged that twice. However, what I heard tonight was, but there's a pretty good chance there will be more asked for later. And at some point, like, someone's gonna have to go further for a total of $10 million to win my support for that. However, that being said, protecting the envelope of this building, like, to me, that is at least something we need to consider. And I'd be supportive of.
Let me just comment. I share some of the concern that because of we don't want to make an implicit commitment to a $10 million project. I mean, that's just what I think you're hearing around the table. I do think there is value in the city doing what Councilor Oliver indicated, and maybe some of the other second stage things that are candidly hard to put into naming rights. If somebody wants to make a donation and it's going to be the Councilor Albright auditorium, it's one thing. The Councilor Albright accessible ramp doesn't quite have the panache. So I think that there is a legitimate role for the public to sort of make literally the foundation for the opportunities here, but it's not an unlimited amount, and I just want to say that. Okay, are we had any further conversation about that?
Have you finished your presentation?
I have finished as much as I will present.
Feel free to supplement the documents or provide them as sort of a report so that we can get that, because I think that you want to sort of set this up for finance for an easy decision in terms of the documents. So that's what I would recommend, following up Councilor Kayla's.
Move to approve.
Okay, motion to approve. All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? And again, Councilor Farrell, thank you for taking the time to join us and participate. Your questions are legitimate. Okay, all right. I'm going to suggest we take just a 5-minute bio break, everybody, and then be back for the next installment. Thank you all.
Recording stopped.
So let's.
Recording in progress.
Okay, we're back.
No, Brad.
Now,
Can't do that. I love the way when they like.
so the next item we have discussed before, but I want to indicate that it is item 4424, requesting reevaluation and possible amendments to the inclusionary zoning ordinance. We also have a companion item 7224 requesting updates on the municipal affordable housing trust. And the 4524 discussion and possible amendment to include, amendment to inclusionary zoning ordinance to include training. So these are all of a piece to a certain extent And we're fortunate to being advised by members of the representative of the Housing Authority as well as the Affordable Housing Trust, as well as our own department. And I'm going to recognize Ms. Kreitzer to take us through this. And there's a significant amount of material attached to the agenda, as you can see. I don't expect you to walk us line by line through this, but I think we need to see if we can come to conclusion on this item because we're coming to the end of the term. So I hope you will aid us doing that. And I apologize for starting late to those of you who've been in attendance. And as I say, I hope you had a good vote. But we'll see where we go. All right. And Mr. Planning Director, do you want to come to the table for this? Because Mr. Kalis has indicated he's doing virtual. All right. So Ms. Kreitzer, you want to lead off, and then I'll ask Mr. Heath to sort of help manage the rest of the conversation.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for letting us come back here tonight. I've also wanted to note that Shaylin Davis-Ioannakis is also available virtually tonight for any questions. So the information that we presented based on previous discussions, we gave a detailed staff memo going over the changes. There's really 3 changes left that staff has been discussing and has not come to an agreement on. The raising the by right allowance of payments from 7 to 9, which is what it is now, to 7 to 19 units. Eliminating the requirement for contractual resident services for ELI units in the ELI alternate compliance option. And changes to the senior housing, elder housing in the ordinance to eliminate, or we've made 2 changes there. We've changed the formula for how it's calculated. And we've also made a change since the last meeting to remove independent living. The thought there is that independent living is really a different category from what we're talking about, for where there are not the same level of services of medical assistance provided. And so the independent living should really be calculated in the same way that we calculate any unit in any development in the city. So for the elder services ones, we've given it, there's a lesser percentage requirement and there's a lesser payment in lieu. So independent living would just be treated as any other development.
Mm-hmm. So this is the substance of the department's now posture on the item, as I understand it, right?
Right.
So it's really up to the committee to decide whether we agree with those recommendations or we want to do something else. So let's take them one at a time, I think, if that's agreeable to the committee. And also, Mr. Heath, do you want to introduce the representatives from?
Yeah, so we have Ann Houston from the Housing Trust and Michael Orr from the Housing Authority. So Ann has given a lot of thought to this ordinance, and in particular, the issue with cash payment and what that can potentially leverage in terms of affordable units.
Okay, I think it might be appropriate, if it's agreeable to the committee, to hear from Ms. Houston on that specific issue, because that's the first of the 3. Is that agreeable?
Yeah.
Would you be willing to, do you want to come up and?
Sure, you can have my seat.
Oh, I could just scooch in beside it.
Well, we want to get you on camera if possible.
Okay.
So you can be heard. And also it's helpful to the clerk to hear you as well.
In case you can bring up the chart.
Great, thank you. Again, Ann Houston, and I chair the trust. Susan Albright is the counselor representative, the council representative to the trust. And I'm also supposed to give a report on our activities, so this should cover some of that. And
Well, we give you a chance at the end of the conversation to do that, but you can.
we'll give you back some of your time.
All right.
So the trust has funded 3 projects in its life. It's doing about 1 a year, and we're using all of the money. We were so grateful that last month the council allocated the CPC award to the trust for FY26. The CPC funds are the vast majority of funds that the trust has to allocate But we also rely on inclusionary zoning and the IZ funds become increasingly important as we face some federal risk with other sources of funds that the city has to support affordable housing. I think in the president's budget, there's a substantial reduction that is being proposed to both CDBG and home, and they're being proposed to be block granted to the state. Hasn't happened. Not much is happening right now in Congress, so we don't know, but it's really what we have to be able to support is really critical. So I did some analysis just to understand, because I chair the trust and I sit on the partnership, but really my bottom line interest is making sure that we're able to expand affordable housing opportunities in the city. And so how are we going to most effectively do that is my particular goal. I looked at the impact of fee in lieu, looking at sort of the 7 to 20 unit project, and I put this together for the board, for the partnership. I looked at projects we funded, and actually, I'm not sure why I didn't include Coleman. It would have made the per unit slightly less, but I looked at the total city investment, not just the trust funds. It's much lower when you look at the trust fund, but I think it's important for us to think about what we're in total putting into affordable housing projects. And you see that between 2019 and 2025, if you look at the top right-hand corner, on average, the city is investing $90,000 per affordable unit. Okay, so these are all privately developed affordable housing projects. And the in lieu payment at $650,000 a year. I mean, $650,000 per unit. Thank you. I count on Barbie to keep me focused. If we made by right and just and included all of the percentage, we didn't round up or down, but we just included the percentage in each unit. You look at the blue box in below, the 7-unit project, which is by right now, would produce $455,000 because it's 70% of the amount. Yeah.
Shouldn't it be the 100%?
It's I made that mistake when I did this chart originally. In the IZ ordinance, 7 units is 70%, and 8 units is 80%, and 9 units is 90.
Okay.
And then 10 goes to 100.
Okay, so we could make something for 4 units and 5 units, and 6 units, something like that, a percentage.
And a percent.
So this, like, I think this is what you.
So for that in lieu payment, we could support 5 private new developments, new units. For 19 units, we could support 20. So you would get 1 inclusionary unit or an in lieu payment that would support 20 units.
No, Councilor Homer and then Councilor Wright.
So just the math there, you're dividing the total in lieu payment by the average cost of the.
That's exactly
Okay,
right.
all right.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have 2 questions on that, and so what's navigation? I haven't heard that.
Oh, navigation is the West Newton
Family.
Yeah.
Over on Washington Street.
Okay.
I just use shorthand in putting this together.
But it's a little bit different. I mean, that's just rooms. for people and it's not a full apartment.
So, and it was a very small amount. You could take that out and it actually would shift this substantially.
Yeah, I don't think that's a right one to put in there because you're looking at whole.
I did all of them.
Okay. The other thing is, because since prices for building and things like that have gone up quite a bit since 2019, I think using just data from 2023 or 2022 and now would be better too.
So I actually did, let me see if I even brought it with me. I did this, and then realized I had already done a more extensive one. I did this just for projects that the trust had invested in. I'm happy to share that with you after.
Okay.
It actually ended up with, it had a lower per unit figure than the 90. It was about 65, I think. I'm remembering. So it did include navigation. I thought that it was important to include everything we've invested in. Some of these are bigger, some are smaller. Some are they actually include the trust has invested in 3 types of housing. Each one of our projects we've been a preservation project, the Coleman House, which was both expanded the number of units but preserved the units. The navigation were new units coming on, and Newton Gardens is this naturally occurring affordable housing. We got nice coverage in the Globe last week on it. So it gives you a good sense of the range of projects that we might be able to fund.
So let me just clarify this for purposes of the committee, and I hope the public. The chart, the top chart is an attempt to try and get a rough estimate of sort of the contribution that produces an affordable unit. In other words, at $90,000, maybe it's $100,000 now, but that produces an affordable unit as part of the process that you've been undertaking. And what I'm hearing in the lower chart is that if you compare a unit on site compared to cash turning into that, at least a position of the housing trust is that you could get a significantly larger number of units. The money would leverage a significantly larger number of units, even if it's not on site, from the units that are on site.
Thank you. Perfect.
Is that accurate?
Yes.
So that's the choice that I think is before the committee to decide. I mean, we've had a conversation just for summary. You and I have listened to or had the chance to hear the prior conversation, that part of the value of having units on site is that the units are there and people are participating in that project. And there's been, I think, an historical preference from the council. Councilor Albright can remember better than I can, I think, but we've lived this for a while, in favor of on-site units rather than having people trade out. But this is the chance, at least in the smaller projects, to ask whether that's still the right policy, or we should go, from what I'm hearing from you, that the trust would prefer having more money and more units than having fewer units and less money.
So if I might, the trust has not officially weighed in on this. We haven't had a meeting to do
Fair
it.
point.
So this is the Ann Houston version of the world. And for larger projects, I would absolutely agree with you that it is really critically important to have affordable units that are integrated into larger projects. But I think that when you look at creating 3 units in a 19-unit project, it doesn't begin, there's both a real inefficiency for city staff to monitor those projects, and for the developer to do the sort of really extensive compliance And every time the city tells me what they have to do for each compliance, it makes me tired. It's really extensive, and so, so that's one reason, and the other is just practically, I think that we don't have the resources to keep up with some of the production that we potentially could have. We have enough funds right now to fund 20 to 30 units. It would be really helpful to have some more so that we can respond in a really timely manner and be able to make sure that we're using our funds in the best way and producing the best housing.
Okay, so let me go to members of the committee. Councilor Oliver.
Counselor Krinsman said.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Krinsman, I'm sorry, I can't tell.
I just want to, I think, amend what you said, Mr. Chair, and I hope you'd agree with this, but we'll see. You said that there's been sort of a preference for building the units on site. I would say that I think the committee in the past has expressed a preference or at least a desire to get units built. I think maybe the conventional wisdom was that the easier path to that was going to be on site and to have a developer do them. But I don't know that it was necessarily a preference for on site as opposed to just a way to try and get the units actually constructed.
Well, I think Councilor Albright at least has I think a memory more consistent with mine, but
Yeah, absolutely. I think the last battle we had over this was a project on the south side of the city where the developer wanted to buy a building by Lake Street, Boston College Lake Street area, and put more units there than were actually needed to get the IZ requirement done. And we flatly turned that down and said, no, the units have to be on site. So that was the last battle we've had, and I think it pretty much continues project after project, is that folks are, I think our council has always hoped for projects where the IZ units are inbred into the project.
Included.
Anyway.
The historical perspective, I guess, is, and we can agree, maybe not always the same in everybody's perspective, but we've got to figure out where we go with this. So I think the operational question is, do we follow the recommendation that the department has brought to us, or do we amend it in some way, and if so, how? Councilor Wright?
So the money that you're spending in these units, but has some of the money been used to update present units, and how much of that money has been used to update kitchens and bathrooms and units that we have already?
So part of the trust in using CPA funds has to follow all the CPA regulations, and we are not allowed to renovate units unless those units were created with CPA funds. So for example, for the Colvin House, funds were given, but funds were given for preserving the building as a whole, not for renovating any individual units. And so I don't believe any units have been renovated with trust funds.
And so,
but it preserves the affordability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there have been money used, what money is used to update units?
We can use CDBG funds, we can use home funds for that, and we work quite a lot with the housing authority on doing those kind of projects, but we cannot use CPA funds.
Coleman, the vast majority of city funds came from CDBG, and I think actually CDBG and home.
Yeah, the CPA previously
did okay.
Home and CDBG funds also went into it. CPA gave money for windows, for masonry, and for roof, and they, because of issues with COVID and contractors and supplies being so expensive, they weren't able to do the roof, and that's where they came back to the trust that had the funding at the time. So the trust was asked to fund the roof, and that's where that money went.
So how much from the trust then is actually going towards physical units versus other stuff?
The trust does not allocate funds in that sort of way. We look at a total per unit and for a project, and I guess I'm having a little trouble understanding. We have, when I talked about preservation, those were not, so when you do affordable housing, your units are restricted between 30 years in perpetuity, depends on when they come online. But you know, you have to do upgrades, you have to, and usually you do that through refinancing. And so it's really critical that we continue to make sure we reinvest in the 2,075 affordable units in Newton. And so we have done one of the 3 projects we've funded so far have been in a preservation project. It wasn't creating new units, it was making sure that the units that we have continue to be really excellent places to live and benefit the community as a whole.
Is that Newton Gardens?
No, that was, because Newton Gardens, none of those units were affordable. Those were really creating new affordability. That was the Coleman House run by Two Life.
So Newton has 2,700, 2,775. How many of those are apartments versus condos?
Only 88 are home ownership units.
Okay, so, and does,
Virtually all, 190, so.
and does Newton or any organization within Newton run the condos, or are those?
Those are privately owned.
Those are privately owned. Okay. Okay, I think that's it for right now. Oh, one other thing is I have been talking to someone else who works in this line of affordable housing. And I'll work with him and that we can get it down, that recertification and things like that should only be about $1,000 per unit. And it should be a lot easier. And I will work to see about getting that done.
Recertification.
Every year you gotta put in for the rentals and stuff like that.
Right.
Which everyone complains about, especially with the small projects, there's only 1 or 2. But if you get it down and get into a system, it should be pretty easy. And I'm gonna work with this other person and see what we can do on that.
So, well, let's just see where we are. Does the housing authority want to add anything to this conversation? Or at least you representing the housing authority?
I could add a second if you allow me. Just that.
You want to come to? Share where you're visible.
Sure, thank you. Thank you.
Just say your name again for the record for the public.
Sure, so I'm Michael Lara, I'm the Executive Director of the Housing Authority as of this January. But I just wanted to say first, thank you for letting me speak, and the Haywood House project was one that we're very proud of, 55 affordable units. And it was really necessary to use a lot of the creative fund we were talking about. We use home and CDBG for preservation ourselves. But for new development, it's becoming increasingly difficult to get state funding. We actually have an earmark right now for over 2 million in development that's on hold indefinitely, given what's happened at the state budget level. So we're trying to think very creatively of how to get a bit of a kickstart to our new development. So inclusionary zoning cash payments are something that are key for us. I just kind of want to advocate and sort of remind and educate that's key to creating new units for us. Although, again, as an affordable housing advocate, we always want to see new development having a component of affordability. Inclusionary units are great for a community. Sometimes it's not always the perfect fit. I think we see that in a lot of neighboring cities where they decide a cash payment could provide a lot of benefit. And I think the unusual net benefit here would be that 50% of the inclusionary zoning cash goes to the trust for great deals like Newton Gardens, and then 50% would flow to the housing authority, which we currently have about 3 sites that we're looking to do redevelopment and new development on, but we cannot get going because the architectural engineering and design costs are so significant that it's in the millions. So we are sort of awaiting for a large cash payment to really get those deals going.
Okay. All right, Council, now, let me recognize Councilor Gatsby. I would recognize Councilor Ryan. I'll come back.
Okay, I actually, there are a couple of issues that I wanted to talk to. So when we do a cash in lieu, we remove those units from being counted on the SHI, correct? I mean, because it's the
Well, the new units that will be created will be.
Okay, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's
Okay,
shifting the location.
Okay,
but
okay.
Yes.
All right, and I had actually sort of talked through with, the law department, the ability to sort of in some way restrict, that if in fact this shift from 7 to 19 having the option of cash in lieu, being restricted to that half-mile radius, in terms of the proximity to mass transit. It was an idea that I really wanted to sort of see whether or not, there was any feasibility or any options to be able to in some way incentivize that the units be built, you know, so close to mass transit. And so I'm sort of feeling, and I'm hearing from people that it's actually about the development costs for the projects. You know, that's the driver, you know, in terms of this equation.
Right, I think it's the development costs and as Anne mentioned, the level of detail that has to go into maintaining affordable units, putting them, making sure that they meet all the requirements for market.
Right,
The
the
market,
lottery.
the lottery,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's the same whether it's one unit or whether it's 20 units.
Right, but then Councilor Wright was just speaking to being able to, in some way, find someone who has that ability to then be contracted rather than it coming.
Well,
to
but
the planning
that, so
department.
recertification is something that's separate from getting these units off the ground.
No, I understand that, but I'm
Yes.
just trying to sort of balance the equation a little bit so that then it's actually taking the responsibility away from our planning department and then contracting it out so that then it's actually more feasible to have units created, you know, for the ones for.
I mean, it's a burden on both sides because the state is involved, because these units need to be added to SHI.
Mhm.
That adds months to the process to get the state to review and to approve things.
Okay.
So it's not just, it's quite a lot of work on our side, it's quite a lot of work on the contractor or the developer. And what we've also noticed with these smaller projects is they tend to be developers who maybe don't have as much experience, maybe have never done affordable housing. And so there's a much steeper learning curve. It takes a lot more in-depth work with them than like a trio that knows who to hire, knows what to do and go through the process.
I just, you know, I think it's a loss, you know, when you talk about the historic in terms of people and the council supporting the idea of integrated units. You know, I just sort of feel as if that's a goal that we would all really like to see continue, you know, just kind of like wanting to see the integration, you know, into our community, and especially if it has proximity to transit. But I'm also willing to sort of hear that when the housing authority was talking about needing the funding to launch some of these redevelopments I live close to a site that has the real potential to expand. So I understand, you know, the complexity of this, but.
I want to get us to a decision if we can. and
Okay, no, I'm just sort of,
Yeah, no, I understand.
yeah, that was the only piece that I was sort of trying to understand.
Okay, no, it's a legitimate question, but let me recognize, I think I have Councilor Wright, I'm gonna come back to you. I've got Councilor Danberg, Councilor Albright, and Councilor Oliver. Okay, and then I'd like to be heard, Councilor Wright first, and then come back to Councilor Danberg.
So I personally would prefer to keep the units, not go up to 19, and keep them on site. But I'm willing to compromise to possibly go up to 15 or something like that for rentals, but not for condos, because once you sell them, and until they sell again, and they're at 80%, and then we're gonna talk about maybe the 10%. And this is a way for someone to get into the market for people like Osiris and younger people to get in and to buy something, you know, this is a starter home and things like that. And so we're not building, for the most part, we're not building condos at all. So I don't want to lose the few that we get, not here and there, for people who want to buy in versus the rental. I mean, so in general, I'd rather not do it at all, but if I had a compromise, I could do with the rentals, but not with the condos. And I have a question, what are the 3 locations that you're looking at for development or redevelopment?
We have 2 federal public housing sites and 1 state public housing site that we're looking at for redevelopment, which would be different paths with the federal government through a RAD program possibly, and the state redevelopment, most likely through a low-income housing tax credit program as well.
So they're both housing right now, it's not like the dump over by the school and stuff, when you were looking at land or the parking lots and stuff, so it's actually where there's housing now.
Yes, it's existing housing on all the sites, and I would just add that, you know, all the sites have been identified for myriad reasons, proximity to transportation, schools, etc. But most importantly, the capital component needs. You know, we're so chronically underfunded. On the state program, we get less than 5 cents for the dollar for the capital need backlog, and the federal government's not much better. So the fact that these are such tired properties that could use a certainly increase in density potentially, but also lack accessibility for electrical and plumbing these days, and are just at this point, if we're doing more capital improvements, it really is putting lipstick on the pig. Really need to redevelop and kind of rethink these sites.
And then, I mean, I would have liked to see a percentage in there. You said to add 40 to 50 units, but is that on a place that has 100 units or a place that has 20 units? So.
All three sites have that potential, so I think that's sort of not an average number. I think that's the goal. Two of them in particular could be far greater, depending on many factors, 40B friendly zoning and how much density we can take in that community, of course, working closely with both residents and neighbors, but that's our hope. I think all three sites have that.
So is that like a 50% increase than what's there, or is it?
One of them would be doubling its density overall, for sure, our state family site. And the other sites that we have in mind for federal senior public housing, one would be probably about 60% of the site and the other one would be closer to 50%.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's see where we go because I'd like to get a sense of the committee. Councilor Danbury.
Okay, I'm very impressed by the conclusion that you have here. That with in lieu payments produce 7+ times more rental units. Is that, can you delve into that just a little bit more and explain why that is?
That's Ms. Houston's.
Yes, and
So that is really based on the in lieu payment that would be created at different unit sizes. And it's the average, this is only looking at the 7 to 19 units that are produced, and using the average city investment at $90,000.
Yeah.
Now, I'm gonna tell you, and I think Councilor Wright was right, that this is sort of a wide-ranging list of projects over a number of years. We have talked with developers about some prospective projects coming in who are looking for about 60,000 per unit in city funds, total city funds. And that allows them to leverage very deep state and federal resources that there's.
So we're priming their pump.
Well, you can't, the state and the feds both absolutely require that there's a local investment before they will put their dollars in. And but they'll come in with between $5 and $10 for every dollar we put in.
Okay.
So it's really quite significant.
So having that pocket of
That's right.
that of local investment is very important to our being able to leverage that.
That's essential.
One of the questions that I had, and you, Ms. Houston, you mentioned.
I'm always happy to call my Ann.
You mentioned that we still have some units that sunset. Is that, can you speak to that a little bit?
Is that relevant to this? No disrespect to it.
Okay, and if you don't want to discuss that now, but
and I'm happy to talk with you further. That might even be a conversation we have offline, because I think expiring use projects are really important. And what I was really referencing is that just to maintain our housing in really good shape. You know, I don't think that we're a community that wants to feel like our affordable housing is subpar. You know, I think we want to feel like it's great housing that you wouldn't recognize as the affordable housing. It's just part of our community resources. And we have to occasionally be ready to put some additional funding in to maintain that housing. Because it stays with us forever.
And could I just be clear from the chair on what we're looking to accomplish and vote on if we vote on something tonight?
Right. Well, we've got several issues that Ms. Kreitzer has highlighted that are sort of outstanding before. This is the first one.
This is right.
Which is, I'd like to get clarity on this one and then move to the other two and see if we can dispose of them tonight. But this is the question of whether we stay with the on-site for smaller projects or we go to cash in lieu up to the 20. And I'd like to, Councilor Wright has indicated something she'd find acceptable in the middle, but I want to make sure that the members of the committee get their questions answered and then see a little bit of a straw poll among the committee where we are so that we can decide and move on to the next thing, because it is now 9:15 and I would dearly love to get us out of here by
Okay,
10
I'll
o'clock.
leave it where it is so that other people can.
No, I appreciate this. It's a legitimate question. I just want to make sure. Okay, I think I have Councilor Albright next.
So I just want to say that Ann has been shepherding a fabulous report on housing in Newton. And I hope it comes out soon because the answers to that question and many other questions are there. She's done an amazing, with the staff, done an amazing data collection of what's going on with housing in Newton. So just, I hope we see it soon. You know, I described before the battle that we had over that project. I think it was the Kessler Woods project. But I came down on the side of, let's let this person buy this house near Lake Street where it's a 5-minute walk to the end of the sea line near Boston College, a 5-minute walk to food and amenities. And the Kessler Woods project was nowhere near anything, that you needed a car to go anywhere. And so I was on the side of the battle and said, let them put this off-site. Because I don't think we want to, as my mother used to say, cut our noses off to spite our face, just to stand on principle. And if the money that we raise can do more units than the 2 or 3 units or the 1 unit that we get out of these smaller projects, it would be a wonderful thing for the city to have more units than just 1 or 2 or 3 here and there throughout the city. So I really hope that we will consider making this change. And, you know, just as we had a look back provision that brought us to this point, we can have another look back provision that insists that we look at it and see, well, how well did we do? Did we create the units or not? If not, let's put it back. So I think we should give this a try and see if it produces more units.
Thank you, Councilor Oliver.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to start there if I could. Do we actually need a look back here? Like, and I don't know who I played. I know that we're required to review the IZ on a regular basis, every 5 years, correct? We can do it every 6 months if we wanted to. Is that true?
Sure.
Okay, great.
He's laughing.
Well, yeah, I don't recommend that. Sorry for the heart attack moment, but you know, okay, we could, okay. So then I actually heard you say something a couple minutes ago, Ms. Laura, that I want to go back to. Did I hear you say that currently state and federal funds are kind of stuck?
We have state earmarked money for development that is definitely on hold due to what's going on at the federal level. But I'd also add that our major concern, obviously, is a result of the current government shutdown. We want to see where federal public housing lies. We have a program that we rely on our unrestricted reserve to cover some of our day-to-day financing if there were significant cuts. And mentioned earlier that there's been proposals from this administration to block grant all the funding to the states, which is very difficult to even wrap our heads around because of a lot of complications, including some states not even having departments of housing that they'd have to essentially establish as a result of this. So we're sort of waiting to see where the chips fall so we can plan our budgets moving forward, but there is no room and typical excitement, as you'd say in the past, for development. So we have to think creatively. The biggest equity line is low-income housing tax credit.
Which weirdly, by the way, I just want to add.
Wait, let me just,
You get be clear about, you're talking about public housing funding as opposed to the big driver for private housing development, which most of these are, which is low-income housing tax credits, which.
the point I think the relevant for what I understand from Housing Authority is that because the funds that come in are divided between the Housing Authority and the trust, the Housing Authority is a participant in the decision we're making if we make the decision to go for more cash in lieu of, but the projects are very different. So I just wanted to, and planning director.
Yeah, I was just gonna make the same point Ian was about to make, which is ironically, there's more low-income housing tax credits than there have ever been before to leverage these dollars. $16 billion.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's stunning.
Can I?
All right,
Okay, just to add to that, the volume cap has increased, probably the only good result on the housing world from the big beautiful bill. But I would add that it is a highly competitive stream. It's probably the most competitive pipeline for affordable housing, probably one of the biggest equity drivers that we have. So our hope is to remain competitive and get in the pipeline soon. And that's where we're sort of pushing now that the volume cap is up. There's this unique time and opportunity to try to get in the pipeline. And that would require obviously zoning and whether we're self-developing or a co-developer on board to make it most attractive possible to the Executive Office of Housing Livable Communities, which often oversees the state and federal tax credits.
so, if I can recognize myself and nobody else. Councilman-
If I may.
No,
I
you're
wasn't
there,
quite done.
apologies.
I do want to follow up. You mentioned 40B. I'd love to figure out how that fits into if that's the city building of 40B, I would love to kind of follow up with that, but not here. I don't think that's germane to our convo. But if that's what that means, I'd love to understand that a little bit more.
We just can't build it by right at this point. The density levels we would need to really increase the housing stock would probably require a friendly 40B. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Barney and Laura, but that's our understanding as well.
Unless it's in VCOD,
True.
then
Right.
anything is there.
But you wanted to comment on that.
I do have additional questions.
Yes.
My apologies, but
No,
I do have
my
questions.
apologies for.
Yeah, no, you're fine, fine. So the examples that were up here, I noticed one other thing in the first chart that you had put up. None of those included acquisition of land or property. And so this equation then is focused on land the city already owns or projects?
Private, excuse me, these are, with the exception of Haywood, which is owned by the Housing Authority, which is a public instrumentality. The rest of these are all privately owned. And
Correct, but those costs don't include.
yes, they do.
Acquiring.
They do include the total development cost, I'm sorry, I use, like, I just have done this too long and I only know how to speak in lingo, but TDC is total development costs, which includes land, all of your hard development costs, all the soft development costs, and your fee and overhead.
But didn't Golda, you added on?
Golda probably built it, I'd have to go back.
Well,
and
then
look
the
at the
armory
budget,
was
but
in
it
it
probably
all.
built it.
Golda
so-
did acquire the city water, the former water tower
Yeah,
site,
okay.
so there was some acquisition there.
And the armory acquisition was, of course, very much, now,
Yeah, I should say, my apologies.
yeah.
And so I'm just clarifying that.
Sure.
Just for my own edification perhaps. But the one question that I do have is, as we kind of look at this as a multiplier, which is
That's right.
a crude way for me to say it because there's a lot more involved.
No, I think that's right.
Well, I mean, it is a
That's right.
multiplier,
That's
there are all
right.
kinds of
That's right.
different components to that, right? It's not one number, it's a whole bunch of things. I'm curious if, as a group, planning department has looked at if we do this, we're going to change what we get or what we see people building. Because we know that if we were to take the 7 units, right, our threshold that exists today, and we move it up or down, we know, because we've had this conversation, that we're gonna modify what developers build. And my question is, have we looked at what could happen if we did this? And I remember my VCOD scars. I know that's an almost impossible question to know what we're gonna get. But I'm really curious, like, what's gonna happen if we did this now or later, or at all?
I guess the suggestion might be is that you see a lot less projects over 20 units, right? If people have the opportunity maybe to provide a cash payment, maybe they'll take it. Maybe you'll start seeing projects in that range. 7 to 19
Below
units.
20 unique.
Correct.
Okay. Because I know that there are a lot of moving parts here, and I'm supportive of I like the idea of a multiplier. What I'm still wrestling with is all of the projects that are listed are significantly above 20 units, some
Right.
way over. And that's fine, because I know what the product, the different, like the properties and projects. But what I am interested, I don't know what we're gonna see because of this in terms of behavior.
So I think that what you're getting at is that these are large projects. And, because you offer the right of making an in lieu payment to smaller projects, you don't tell a developer they have to take that in lieu payment.
You can't.
And so it will actually be a way to figure out, is it more advantageous for a developer to offer the unit on site? And some developers will want to do that regardless. Or is it a better business proposition for them to make it in lieu payment? So that's, I think, what you don't know. I can tell you because as Councilor Albright said, we have spent a year and a half looking at every single project that's in the city.
Which is really interesting, because I would like to see that report.
And I'm happy to share as soon as I get the final sign off, I would love to share it with you. But what we know is that there actually haven't been that many developments in this size. And this is not what's gonna drive it. The real driver is that development expenses go down as projects get larger. There's such economies of scale. It is very difficult to develop smaller projects at this point. And so this could be a tremendous amount of discussion with not a lot of development that comes from it. It might encourage, if it encourages more smaller infill development, that'd be terrific. That'd be terrific. I think that the reason you're seeing, if you had looked at the prior 10 years, you would have seen the city invested in a lot of very small projects at very high price points. At very high, where the city, because the projects weren't able to leverage. These are only projects that receive trust funds. These are only projects that receive trust funds.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, or.
City funding, or city funding,
Yeah.
Just add, the RKG did look at this in their report. And they had a chart that showed you the steep drop off that we get right now, once you get to 9 units, or all of a sudden they have to produce units. And it, as Ann said, the project has to be a certain size before it's worth it for them to get us units. Part of how we came to these numbers and it evens out. The drop evens out once you give them a high enough threshold that they can work with that. So it is something RKG looked at. That was in the report.
So let's just see where we are committed. I'd like to, let me just express my view. I share some of Councilor Oliver's question about what the development incentive of the change would be as opposed to the housing funding incentive, because I think there's a choice that's being made here. As I understand it from Ms. Houston, though, she doesn't think that that's the sensitivity break. In other words, we do know that people do not want to build anything beyond 6 units up right now because they can't bear the kind of burden of putting in the affordable units. So it seems to me that we're not getting the affordable unit and we're not getting the money. So I'm somewhat persuaded to at least try out a higher number. Whether 19 is the right number, I'm not sure, but it seems to me that there is a higher number. And I was on the other side of Councilor Albright on on the question about, the project down at Kessler Woods, because that one had been sold to us, I think at the time, that because it was housing on site. I mean, that was one of the inducements to have the package put together, if I recalled at the time. So we felt that this was not the merits of what you talk about are true, but it wasn't coming out of the blue. It was coming as a trade-in. But I'd be persuaded, I think, to go with the recommendation, but I'm not quite certain about the right number. But let's just see where the committee is at this point. Let me just see, how many people are in favor of at least a change from the current situation? No.
Wait,
Sorry.
change.
Yeah, not on the table right now. I don't know what that would be, right?
Well, no, you don't know what that would be. All right, that's a fair question.
Okay.
Let's go with how many people are in favor of the proposal of the planning department at this point, which is to go to 19 without having an in-kind on-site requirement, right? So let's just get a sense of that.
The option.
You want us to, you want to know why?
Chair Baker, it's the option.
Yeah, what that.
Provide the unit or provide,
Yeah.
right, and
Yeah.
always have
They
the
have the choice.
They have the choice.
choice.
How about another? Oh, yeah, they have a choice, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the point is, if they would have the choice, right, but I think the right now, the break point is that they effectively have to do that, I think, in order to make this go.
After none.
After none.
Do you want to know our logic?
Well, let's just see where we are. We got 3, I don't know if that's,
No, there's some of there too.
Counselor Kayla?
I agree. Yeah, yes, I'm a yes on that.
I couldn't.
We're not gonna know the right number. We have to go with something, see how it does, and go from there. But I think we go with the recommendation.
We have a concrete proposal before us, and I'm just trying to see what there's incentive in the committee for it. Okay, so the recommendation of the planning department, and as I assume at the housing trust and the housing authority, is to modify our ordinance to allow up to 19 units. Okay, and so let's just see who's in favor of that. All right, just a straw poll. You want to hold your hand up? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4.
5.
5.
You got 2 online, 3 at the table, right?
Oh, okay. All right, opposed? 1. Abstain? 1, 2.
I'll make my proposal.
Well, we got 5 in favor of what's here, so.
I like to take the condos off because we're not producing any condos, so nobody can buy into the market on the affordable units. So I'd like to take the condos out, and I would like to see us paying in lieu of for units 4, 5, and 6. And that'll bring a lot more money, because that's where most of the projects are the smaller projects. 4, 5, 6 units.
Let's not make it too drastic.
We do 70% right now, so if we do 60% for 6 units and.
Well, you have 2 different, we've got essentially a straw poll of 5, but I'll entertain a comment from Attorney Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think I mentioned this at 2 prior meetings. There's no way that we can make any ordinance amendment that requires a payment without giving the opportunity for the property owner to actually include an inclusionary unit instead of it. This is payment.
We can allow them to include it too. So at 4 units, they can have an inclusionary unit or 40% of the 650.
No, that's an illusory option because they don't ever have to include the whole, 100% unit. That only starts at 7. In order to make that actually work, we would have to reevaluate the whole percentage basis so that lower number of units at some point, if it's 4, we'd have to do the calculation that the percentage of inclusionary units they'd have to provide is at least 1 whole one. I mean, that's the way that it's currently set up. It's the way that every other municipality has it set up. And the reason is because otherwise what we're doing is exactly kind of what's being said in this room, which is requiring these smaller developments to just pay into the IZ fund, or where the IZ funds go, which we can't do. And I've said it before, I'll say it definitively now. That'll constitute an illegal tax.
So why can we just charge them? They can either give us a unit at 7 or only pay 70% of the 650. How is that okay?
Because at 7, they have the option to provide the whole unit. They have that option, so then they could do the option to do that or to pay.
But can't we do that at 4, have the option and change our inclusionary zoning to be at 4 or?
We might lose projects, 4, 5, and 6 unit projects.
7 units.
And we wind up with a lot of.
I think we.
That's why.
We
have to change the percentage allocation. Right?
Yeah.
That's not a recommendation yet before us. It doesn't mean that we can't do it in the future, but it seems to me very difficult. I'd just like to get close to a sense. I'm hearing at least 5 members of the committee willing to go support the recommendation of the department. So let's see where we go with the other 2 items and see where we end up as a result of it, because I think they're somewhat related to each other and not completely separate. So can we take the second one? You can stay put, Ms. You don't have to stay.
I was just gonna sit back there.
I mean, the party's here. You can go somewhere else if you want, but. Well, you don't have to stay tonight, but this one, we have to stay. You know.
Did you want me to unlock?
All right. Ms. Kreitzer, would you remind us what the second item
The
is?
second item is the ELI, or the extremely low income unit provision that requires that we also, that a developer creating these units also have a contractually obligated services as part of their project. And what RKG found when they went out is that people didn't know about this, but also that people were very unlikely, it's never been used, and unlikely to ever use it because of the cost of having to include staff services as well as the truly low income units. So our recommendation is that we remove the requirements to have the staff services and try to incentivize creating those lower income units.
And that means that the services, if they have these units, they've got to be provided by somebody else. Now, they don't, it's a paper requirement that's not used, so maybe it doesn't produce any services, but we just need to clarify the impact. So, Councilor Denver.
Yeah, I would believe the consultant on this, that it would be so expensive to for a small number of units to have to provide the on-site services in perpetuity, that I think we're leaving on the table a lot of development that otherwise could happen because it would be affordable and reasonable for the developer to build those units. So I would, without hesitation, go along with doing away with requiring.
Anybody else on this one?
Well, I mean, it's my fault that we didn't vote on it the other night because I was waiting to hear what Ms. Houston wanted to tell me about this particular one, and I think
it was known as the elder.
I wasn't sure which one it
Yeah.
was, so I said, both the older ones, let's hold them, so I'm fine with it, I just.
Anybody else? So let me get a sense of the committee. Anybody want to hold on to the current requirement? I don't hear anybody, so let's assume a consensus that one can go away. All right?
Great, thank you. And then, so the last item for review is elder housing, where the 2 things, we've removed independent living from the list of projects that are eligible to use this category. And we've changed the calculation to simplify it. So we've removed, there was previously a calculation for medical expenses that was based on somewhat arbitrary decisions about how the person would need, what that might cost at any given time. We also simplified the calculation to be 0.5%, 0.5, half of the 650 basically, to be half of what we would charge for a regular unit. We would charge for the eldest unit. The reason behind that being that many of these are not units in the same way that an affordable housing unit for a family is. It's a bed. And so it's a different
New
standard,
scale of need.
different scale,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, everybody understand that one? Anybody? want-
Just a question.
Yeah, Councilor Dan.
Just a bed is assisted living or independent living?
Assistant. So this is
Assisted, right,
assisted
okay.
living, nursing.
That makes sense.
Style.
In independent living, people have their cars, they can go out on their own, they do their own shopping. There's often, a communal dining room that they can go to for a meal or two a day.
So in the future, those projects, independent living would be considered as any other
Yeah,
project, and we would, if you would like to go the in lieu payment, we would use the regular.
yeah, I'm in agreement with that.
Anybody else? Anybody opposed to the change? Okay, so let's come back to the, Councilor Wright.
I have some questions outside of that, some of the, what's written, the actual ordinance, and
But
do you wanna go through that, or? do
yeah,
you-
I'd like to just get clarity on these. It sounds to me like we've got 5 in favor of the first item and virtually unanimous support for the other 2. So, but we want to dispose of the item. So let's go to you.
So, on section,
Can you just point us at page? I've got the printed version here, but
well, I
I don't-
have. Well, page 31 of 76. On section 5.1 or 5.11.5, cash payment.
page on the bottom of the page, that's
33, 5-.
5-33.
What section?
533, okay.
5-11-5, cash payment option.
Okay.
First thing on that last part, 2.3, I think, or 3, what it is, it says, and the purpose of this, and it doesn't go anywhere, it's lost. So that doesn't go to the next page or the next page, so I don't know what that sentence says or does.
I'm sorry, could you, where is that again? That's
The absolute last sentence on that page, the balance of the crossed out. And at the end, it says, and the purpose of this, and there's nothing.
So I have the clean version. The purpose of this, we are missing a word or two, section 511.
So it's the next page, so it's a purpose of this section 5.11, okay. To me, it didn't make sense. So this is the cash payment in lieu of for other projects more than 19, which I think this is stating. And one of the things is, one of the reasons why we can approve it by special permit is the current balance of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and that's it. So if there's $20 million in there, we can get the IZ units somewhat, get an IZ payment instead of having the units and stuff. I don't agree with that.
So I believe, so this is the provision that discusses eliminating units from any project.
Yes.
Similar to what the current Dudley Road project is
Yes.
requesting.
Yes.
So we left this, and Barney, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we left this largely intact from what it had been in the prior ordinance. It was recommended that we be more specific, and we decided having more flexibility for the council to make that
Yeah, I remember
determination.
we had a whole
project by project
conversation about
basis.
that.
Right, so this is, we've just left this as is, and that might not be something that.
I would rather see it
use.
on a number of projects, a number of units. Again, I'm worried that we're gonna get into, affordable units in one part of the city or one building and not in other parts. And I like to, and would be more of a segregated city, so I like seeing affordable units in the projects. And so this right here is like, free card.
So I think the intent is to list a few things that the council might want to take into account if they're considering allowing a project to do this. But by no means is this something that you have to follow. You can use other criteria, you can make that decision. That's entirely up to the council as to whether a project provides a great enough benefit to allow.
I think we have that it still has to come in and satisfy us that it works.
That's just prologue.
And I think the idea is that we put that, the reference to the trust fund, that might be something the council wishes to consider, it might not, and you may have other things that you want to look at.
Okay, and then on that same page, under D at the top of the
Just
page,
which page again? I'm
same
sorry.
page,
533, I'm just looking.
5-33, yeah.
Okay,
So under rental in D.1, you talk about parking spaces is that included in there? Because now we allow buildings to be built and there's one that's gonna be built with no parking at all. So should that be
So,
parking if provided maybe instead of requiring a parking? Because what are they gonna
well,
do?
if a project does not have a parking, we do not require, I'm sorry, I'm still looking, is it section?
D1.
It's at the top of that 5-33.
Monthly housing costs, and they include
Well, my
that in there.
computer's dying. So I've only got so much time here.
Chair Baker, Attorney Lee might want to weigh in on
Yeah.
that one too.
thank you.
Wait,
Or
what
maybe
sheet now?
Attorney Lee doesn't want to wait.
D1.
I'm not even following. What are we? I
Housing
apologize.
costs,
I'm not following.
and
What
it
are we talking
includes
about?
parking spot, but some units won't have
Oh,
parking.
got it, okay, rental.
So which section are we looking at right now? I'm looking at the.
D1,
This is D1.
11 D1.
This is in the red line.
11.4.
This is in the red line version. And it's on page 533 at the top of the page in the attachment to the agenda.
5.11.4 D1.
D1.
And it has it in both the rental and the home ownership parts.
The only reason I'm not sure you need a change, it just says, that are offered to tenants in the building.
Okay.
You know, it says one parking space, there's no parking space offered, then I don't think you count it.
That's been how we've interpreted it to
Okay.
date, is if there's no units, if there's no parking provided, then there's no unit.
And then my next question then, under the home ownership inclusionary units, the monthly housing costs inclusive of mortgage, principal, interest, blah, 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 blah. And homeowners association, and condo and homeowners association fees. And one parking space must not exceed 30% of the applicable.
Yeah, it's like,
So what happens, condo fees are kind of a wild thing, and so what happens when it starts exceeding that 30%?
So that can be a challenge for the homeownership units, and we did let go of a unit that was affordable last year because it was an older condo association, older houses, and the condo fees were getting out of control. That is all worked out as a starting place. That's how we price the units based on all of those expenses. But you're right, we have little control over the condo prices going up, and that can be a challenge.
So once you let that go, did you get money for that? Because
We did, we got paid back. So in that case, we had used CPA funds from the former down payment program that had existed a few years ago. So when it came up for resale and we evaluated and realized this would not be a good unit to put someone back in because of the challenging additional costs, we got our money back from it, and they made whatever profit they made selling it on the market, and it's no longer affordable.
Councilor Ellen?
Yes, sorry, so let it go. You sold it, market value, put the money back into the trust, trust and the
In
housing.
this case, it went back to the CPA, which I think actually ultimately gave it to the trust, but that was the vehicle that we had used at the time. We used the CPA program to fund it. But yeah, every
Yeah,
housing.
it just went through the CPA and back to.
Every housing restriction has a recapture clause that goes over, if for whatever reason this is not working out, this is how we get our funds back.
Got it, thank you. Did not know that.
So, Councilor Wright, anything else?
I had a question. She can go, because I'm still looking through.
So there, and this may be totally just, doesn't matter, but in the red line version of the chart that has the different 15% and so forth for tier 1 and tier 2. The chart that's in the red line version doesn't have tier 2 in it. I don't know if anybody's gonna see this red line version besides us.
So the rental is, are you looking at the rental chart?
Rental, yeah.
So that no longer would have a tier 2.
No, I know it doesn't, but there's no deletion of the 80 to 110%.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist in that chart. So if anybody wanted to see the red line version, that line isn't there.
Well, okay, yeah, I see, I think, I know we were having challenges editing the tables.
If it's a table and you're using redlining, it
doesn't work, yeah.
disappears.
Okay, well, it's, you should put a note there that this doesn't exactly reflect the red line.
Exactly, right, yeah,
Just so.
it's,
For
you're right,
prosperity.
it no longer shows the red line
Yeah.
option, but yes.
And a lot of the tables are pictures. They're
Yeah.
not even
Yeah.
data. The other thing I'd like to discuss, and what we said it was, well, we took, I think, a strong vote, is to remove the 110% AMI units from the ownership, which is our missing middle. And this is what we want. We want missing middle condos. And so removing that, we're taking that away. How are we producing missing middle?
Well, the current draft leaves that.
Yeah, they left the
Keeping
middle.
two tiers for ownership, just one tier for rental.
Yeah, but I'd like to see it down. You jumped up to what, 20 units or whatever, where was it that you had to jump?
Well,
up to?
it'll jump up with the rest of
Goes up with the rest of it.
it mirrors the rental one.
Okay.
I think, I share your desire here, but I think the baggage we've got is enough to get done, if we can do it. That's a bad metaphor. It's hard, but
We will be back in a few years to look at this again and so that'll give us time to come back to any of these issues.
Yeah, I actually wanted to pick up on what Council Oliver was saying, that in fact, you know, rather than waiting for that 5-year look back, you know, to maybe even make it 3 years. So that then, you know, we're beyond, it's required, but I also think that, you know, just even seeing the impact of these revisions. I don't know whether or not that's an appropriate.
I think you, but you don't want to docket it because then it'll die by the end of the next term. You might be docket it at the end of.
We can certainly do it at 3 years or 5 years. I do think we need enough time to get projects underway under this and see what happens.
Right.
This process has taken over a year. So whenever we started, it's, you know, if we started 3 years, it's probably gonna be 3 years by the time we're all done, but.
So start in January.
So starting any day now, right?
We'll see this movie again.
Well,
But
the
yes,
effective date.
that's a-
No, I'm not.
I'm sorry, if I could add one more
Yeah.
thing that wasn't on our previous list. I've asked to note the effective date,
Yeah. It was in
including, okay, that was in the red line versions.
Yeah.
We've recommended January 1st, 2026 as an effective date.
Now, is that gonna be enough? I don't want another phone call from Counselor.
No, but
All right.
can I just relate what happened at land use the other night? Mark Development was asked what they're gonna do. And I was explaining that we're changing the inclusionary zoning, and he thought that 18.5% was too high. And he was gonna stick with the way it is now, because he didn't wanna go to the 18.5%. I thought that was really interesting. I don't know if that's what he's gonna stick with, but.
Well, so, but you were comfortable, we were all comfortable with January 1st on this one?
Cause they have a
think-
choice.
Yeah, they got a choice, yeah. So, let's see where we are now. Councilor Wright, I appreciate your attention to detail and thoughtfulness. Have we cooked it enough for you?
Yes.
Okay. But I really do, you know, reading the lines is important to do. So let's applaud that. All right. So I think we've had straw vote. Let's see if we can take the whole package, all three changes. Let's see, who's in favor? All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
How many are just so, hold your hands up so I get it. 5, okay, opposed? Abstention? 3. Okay, that's a rousing decision. However, now, this is gonna go to the committee. We got a couple of other items. I just want to make sure that we have your report in addition. That you have, and we also have the question of whether we should have any training. I would hope that the authors of that item would be willing to let that go, and we just go with Ms. Houston's report. But let's see about this item. We've got this item, and I think we've done it now. Is there anything left over, Ms. Kreitzer, on this?
That closes the.
Okay, now, this one is gonna be, and Ms. Holden is sitting here very patiently. And with Otter AI Plus and artificial intelligence, I dare say, I don't know how she's going to write a report. And I don't know how the planning department is going to give me a summary that is going to make this easy for our colleagues to understand, but I hope that both of those things will happen, all right? But because this is one I would hope we don't get into the weeds on the council floor. Because boy, there are plenty of weeds to get into, but nonetheless, so we've done that. So let's go on to Ms. Houston. Let me just read that item into the record so that we can, if you can add anything you want to that, and we can, this is an update from the, on the Municipal Affordable Housing Trust. Anything you want to say that you haven't said so far?
I am gonna be really brief, and if you'd like, I'd be happy to send you a memo that might actually cover it too, so, because I
You've
think.
got this report that we're hearing is coming anyway.
And that's actually, that was actually a task force across the city's citizen commissions, the partnership, the Fair Housing Commission, the trust, and the Housing Authority, that we really wanted to dig in and understand what do we have and what do we need in affordable housing. So I'd love to be able to share that with you, and I think it will be signed off and blessed and ready to release very shortly. So here's the really quick and dirty on the trust. As I mentioned, we've done 3 projects over the really slightly more than 3 years that we've been in existence, 1 a year. We've focused on trying to do projects with enough scale so that we could really leverage our dollars with other public dollars. And I think we've been quite successful in doing that. That's been great. We've been able to move very nimbly to take advantage of projects that both the navigation center that came in with enormous state funding compared to our little $500,000, but that the state really needed to see that the city was going to stand with the navigation center with Family Aid. And the other one was this NOAA project that when residential has just purchased this property that, but for their being able to put together in really very short time, the funding to purchase the property, it would have turned into luxury housing. That's what happened to the city, almost identical property across the street. So we were able to preserve affordability in 112 units that will, 30 of them will be deeply affordable, and the balance will be affordable at that 110%, which is a real, and that value will only grow over time. So I think those are real examples of how the trust has been able to move very quickly. We spent all of our money, and we were just waiting anxiously for your approval that we got. So we have $2 million now. I think we have more than that in requests that we think we'll be getting soon for some really nice housing. And that's really what we've been doing. And we've been talking with developers, and we've been working with staff to think about how do we encourage the right kind of affordable housing to meet Newton's need. The other thing that we did, we stepped back and we said, all right, we've done 3 projects. We've really learned we have to revise our application because we really wanted to make sure that we're being very careful stewards of the city's funding. So that was the other thing we did this year. And I can provide more details or answer questions, but that's the 5-minute, and there's still 1 minute before 10 p.m.
That sounds fine to me, but county colleagues?
So those units you're talking about, those were on North Street?
Yes.
You buy in, because we were getting, that's in Ward 3, and the prior owners were upping people's rents $1,000, $1,200 type things. I mean, people were just in tears. because they've been there for so long, they couldn't find any place to live in Newton. They had kids in Newton, now that others too.
I remember you saying that before and it just reinforced how important it is that we preserve these resources because the longtime owner had been such a good landlord.
And he's kind of neglecting.
What
Was it-
yeah,
we got
yeah.
those complaints too.
Yeah. And so I think that Gwen will be a good owner. Important always with big developers, big owners, to always be sure that you let them know if you have any concerns and they'll be responsive. But they do also just into the resident services question you were just looking at earlier. They actually offer some really best practice resident services. And so that's part of the package that you get with Win.
So I think, if there are no other questions, I'm gonna, Councilor Gant.
The only piece is that I would love for the two committees to meet, to
I'm sorry,
have
could you
the
speak?
two committees to have a session together, because I sort of feel as if there's a wealth of information that happens during the Affordable Housing Trust meetings. That I sort of feel just getting the report, and I know that, in watching, I'm learning a lot, but I'm also realizing that, I'd love to be able to interpret and understand where you see, the city of Newton going, in terms of, the investments, as well as there's quite a bit of projected, what the projects that we have right now.
Yeah.
And how the categories they fall into, because apparently there's quite a bit of elder housing, and where you would like to, project and see the need and fulfill those needs,
And we're also always available to talk offline, so. we can work
Well,
on these.
I'm going to resist having a joint meeting
Yeah.
because I'm looking at the calendar with my vice chair.
I'm even thinking in the next.
Oh, well, who knows what's gonna happen in the next year. But that's a fair question, but I'll defer that, but at least in this term, if you don't mind, I wanna make sure we get through the dance steps we've gotta get through. So, I'm entertain a motion, I think, do we need this, this continuing item, this is,
Yes.
so we hold this one. Okay, from time to time, and now it will die and then have to be redocumented, but.
What, document?
That's 7224, it's on page 2. So I'll entertain a motion to hold.
So,
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, now, the 4524, discussion of amendment to inclusionary zoning to include training. Folks, if anybody wants to do this, I would entertain it, but I would like to move NAN on this item.
I'll move NAN.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? Okay, the ayes have it. And the last item, is not one to bother, but you're done. By the way, do you want to say anything last or you're all set?
No, by all means.
Okay, and this is 2424, discussion of amendments relating to aiding small business impacted by development. We've been working on this. We're going to take up the parking issue shortly. So I would ask if there's a motion to NAN this, to do that. But we can hold it, but we're not gonna.
So then this is your.
It's a state program.
This item, the way it's written.
Yeah.
Was Somerville buying a bunch of properties and they thought, do we do something to kind of help mitigate cost of displaced businesses?
Oh, yeah.
And we have been up and down this one.
Yeah.
I think.
Question is, where's the funding gonna come?
That's where it ended up.
Well, we can,
Why don't you?
I mean, it can be brought back if you've got.
It is something I'm just gonna.
It's what's the developer that's gonna develop the Rice Valley building, and there's state funds for the MBTA Communities Act area to help displace.
Yes.
For 100% affordable properties.
Oh,
If I-
100% affordable.
That's the way at least I.
Yeah, okay.
On that particular project, the federal funds, anytime you use federal dollars to acquire within existing businesses, you have to come up with a relocation / displacement plan and pay some amount of money to the businesses.
Does that go for tax credit projects as well?
Anytime you have federal funds,
Okay.
just like if there were people living in it and they had to be evicted.
So the developer pays, or is there, I was under the impression of
Sounds
state
like it.
funds. Or
Yeah.
the federal
It
funds.
didn't sound
Why
like a
don't-
developer.
It's the
Well-
developer pays.
The developer pays now, where they get the money from is.
It's part of your development budget.
This is all a reaction to the old urban renewal displacement.
That's
program.
correct.
But it sounded like the developer.
I'm old enough to remember
Wasn't he gonna pay for it?
No, the money would be there, but it was other state or federal money,
Yeah.
so we need to find out more.
that. Anyway,
And I'm moving.
okay, and, all right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Council.
No, it's fine. I
All right.
wanted to ask a question.
Anybody opposed? The abstentions, all right, any end, all right, before we adjourn, did you have anything? You can ask them offline.
Yep.
All right, I want to thank the planning director and Ms. Houston for sticking it out with us and our colleagues. Councilor Kretzmann, is there any chance you would like to make a motion?
Adjourn?
What a surprise.
Question?
It's usually hold an item, but I thought we just dispensed with the last item, so I was confused.
I have it, no abstentions, all right, thank you all, and, we need to depend on you and of course,
Yes.
to empower the chair, but not sound like he doesn't know anything, when he does,